I don't see why not. And I think that should probably fix it. Don't you think it was probably the shirt? Probably. Yeah. I'll put some music back on. Hello, John Campbell. I don't know what happened there. Get some music going again. What do you guys want to listen to start? How about we do... what song? Oh, this one. This one's good. We'll start with this. Like it. I was able to fix that filter a little bit. Hello, John. We're going to try this again. I don't know what happened. Kind of hoping we can debate somebody. I just came out of Mars. You know we made it so. Sam, it is nice to see your picture on here. Nice to see you in the room. Hope you're doing better. You should come on and debate evolution with me. I kid. I kind of want... I've got some notes. I'm kind of excited about this. Hey, Morsey. Doing pretty good. Been a little bit off physically for a couple days, but not too bad. You know, it's always a daily, like, you know, snowboarding. Sometimes before you go off a jump, you just gotta go and just do it. It's kind of like that. When you're not on, this place is empty. Thanks, Pete. Nice to see you, dear brother. God bless you, too. You're a big reason why we're still here. God bless you guys. Yeah, I want to be on here. You know that. I want to be on here. I don't know. I'm going to try. Are you for or antagonist? I am for intelligent design, against unguided natural selection being the mechanism by which all of this happened. Yeah, George, that was crazy. Thank you, Sam, for joining that. Thank you, sweet sister. Thank you. VOR looks good next to your name. Monkeys share 98% of DNA with humans. They do share a pretty good chunk. So do pigs. Shared DNA, it just means, potentially anyways, consistency in design and efficiency in design. See, if you were designing things like bones and cells and hair and mammary glands and immune systems and stuff, would you rewrite the code for each time? No. You know, video game creators do the same thing. Content creators, you know, if you can use something and not reinvent it every time, you do. 2% is a lot, yeah. So let's look at something here. Do you think I haven't looked at this in a while. What percent of DNA do humans share with pig? The genetic DNA similarity between pigs and human beings is 98%. 98%. So are we descended from pigs? Is that you, Dad? Yeah. Let me know what you have next. Good to see you, Jackie. Man, I love to see those little VOR things next to my family. God bless you guys. Try starfishes. Ooh, fun game. Okay, what percent? I actually wrote hat percent. That's funny. Share with starfishes. Good. I love that. Thank you for asking. I got Google here, by the way. Ooh, bananas. Let's do bananas first. 50% of our genes with bananas. Is that you, Dad? Starfish. Starfish. Ooh, ooh, ooh. My guess is much less because they're totally different anatomical structures. Are we more closely related to starfish or insects? Surprise, your cousin's a sea urchin. 70%. 70% related to starfish. Hey, proof of evolution. DNA with trees. Yeah, that's less. I know, because of photosynthesis, it's a totally different mechanism. 100% pig for them. That's funny. 2% of millions of DNA data is a lot of changes. I agree with that. Anunnaki created us. That would be extraterrestrials, and I say no. Thank you, Sam. Look, it's the Big Bang in here. Thank you. Did you see that? The Big Bang, proof, right here. Yeah, it does seem high. Because if you think, look, they use really slick things. Listen, let me tell you what the scientists do, what science does. They use information that takes understanding and technology that the lay people don't have access to. This is why science used to be magi's and wizards. It's just about interpreting the things that you don't know and telling the people like you do know. DNA is information. ATGCGCTAGATC, that whole thing. It's information. It's a code set. So it's going to be similar throughout different species. It's the blueprint by which things are created. So to have similarity in design, you could just as easily make the point that the similarity that you see is because the designer has his signature in it and he made everything. He or she made everything. I believe right? This is an important point, and I'm hoping to make this with my evolutionists when they come on. Correlation is not causation. And they use that on me all the time as a conspiracy theorist. Correlation is not causation, which means that just because something is similar doesn't mean they came from the same source. See if we can find one less than banana. Maybe. Let me catch up on the chat, and if it dies down, I'll do that. Okay. Good to see you, Rich. Do I believe in God? I do, yeah. I believe in a creator, an entity that created this reality. Saying the Big Bang evolution is real, like saying a tornado built a functional Boeing 747. I agree. I like that analogy. I mean, it's not. There's more nuance to it than that, but I think that's a good thought experiment. Comparable metaphor. She found one. That's awesome, Sam. Thank you. Isn't it amazing that you could get a pearl in there? What a cool little design. Thank you, Sam. Isn't God an ET? I don't think so. I mean, kind of. Extraterrestrial. So by definition, God would be extraterrestrial, meaning not in the creation. He would be outside of it, right? So he would be extra dimensional. I think it's so ED. Don't say God is ED. That doesn't work. Science facilitated this conversation. Use Amish TikTok. Yeah, I believe in science, R. Smith. I really do. I believe in how things work. I think there's some really cool technology. I also like the Amish, so I'm talking about from the beginning of time, so no, not aliens, just millions of years of evolution. I mean, this is an important thing. We all believe something. And I totally support your free will and your freedom to believe whatever you want to. I do. I don't like things taught to us that we have to accept that aren't proof because of an agenda. That's my issue. But if you think you've seen enough data, and you trust me, you've seen this in here. If you've watched my show, if you've seen the data and you really believe that the data supports this, and that's what you choose to believe, that's totally fine. I see the lack of evidence, and I see the data, and to me, I think this is erroneous. I think it's hogwash. I think it's a fairy tale. I think it's a poorly constructed fairy tale. That's what I believe. And we should all choose to believe it. So you have a discussion, right? Hey, I believe this, I believe that kind of thing. My issue is when the system says, you will believe this, and if you don't, you're an idiot. I don't like that. I don't like being bullied. Your not understanding something does not make it a miracle. Exmo, I very much understand all of it. I understand the entire theory, from singularity to the quantum fluctuation of the Big Bang, to the rapid acceleration of particles, hydrogen, deuterium, all these kind of things, helium, into coalescing into galaxies and planets, etc. I know the whole thing. I get the whole thing. I understand it. Doesn't mean I believe it. Thoughts on solipsism? I don't know that word. You might have made it up. And if you didn't make it up, I've never heard of it. So, I'm sure you didn't make it up. It makes a lot of sense that all living things on Earth share the vast majority of genetic variation. I agree with that. What is the scientific method? The scientific method is you come up with a hypothesis, and then you run a test, and then you let the data speak for itself, and you remain a rigorous skeptic. And if you can't remain a rigorous skeptic, you're not a good scientist. The data has to support the theory, or you have to come up with a new theory. Ooh, hacking. Is that you inviting? Sweet. Excited. Let me catch up on the chat, and then I'll bring you on. I wish you could have got Parker on, man. I was hoping to double team this. I got a buddy I got a buddy who's an apologist that we're like Double Dragon apologists. We're the cussing apologists. Here comes the flat earth theories. Actually, I don't believe in flat earth at all, but that's a good try. Anybody that's in here with the flat earth, just understand that that's it, right? I can speak about high-level quantum mechanics, theoretical physics. I can talk about cosmogony. I can talk about Hawk's genes, genealogy, homology. I could talk about any of these things with a very well-versed, very well-researched citizen amateur scientist take, and I'm considered a flat earther. That's why flat earth is out there. Flat earth is out there to discredit people like myself who are critical thinking and believers in intelligent design, to make us look stupid. So when you tell me I'm going to hell because I don't believe in the flat earth, I'd say you got to watch the CIA. They're slick. You did teach me about Hawk's genes last week. Very good at recall. But I didn't know the name Hawk's genes, but I understand the idea. So like I said, when you said Hawk's genes, I said, how does it work? All you have to do is explain the concept to me, because a lot of these ends up in, it's a philosophy, it's a mode. So I need to understand the terminology. And yes, thank you for equipping me with that terminology. And by the way, I absolutely disagree, and you're welcome to come on. You know what we should do, Simon? Dan will come on, the guy that we debated with. Your comadre, the lady that came on, wasn't a good representative of your belief system. And I know you know that. So the hacking guy is pretty good. He's young, but he's got some pretty good takes. So it'll be you, me, Dan, and the hacking guy. It'll be 2-on-2, and we'll hash some things out. What do you say? That's a good idea. You can tell I know nothing about quantum mechanics. Oh, you do? You can. You can tell by that. Let's talk about it, Spanish dict. Let's talk about it. What do I know about quantum mechanics? Do you want to talk about quantum entanglement? Do you want to talk about the delayed double slit experiment? Do you want to talk about non-locality? What would you like to talk about with quantum mechanics? Maybe you can teach me about quantum mechanics, huh? Everybody on the internet's such a hotshot. Where did I learn about quantum mechanics? I've listened to about 200 hours of advanced university lectures. So no, I didn't go to a college and give them $60,000, but I've listened to the teachers, the actual scientists. I understand it very well. I don't understand the math because I didn't go to school for quantum math, but I understand the mechanism. That's all this ends up working in is types. Hey, Jast. Yeah, I'm going to bring on hacking, and then I'll bring on Dan. So it could be me and Dan versus hacking, Simon, and Jast. It'll be fun. Ooh, look at that. I don't even know the names. Oh. I do. Let's do a quick. I'm gonna bring hacking on, and then we'll do a quantum physics test. Yeah. Okay. So to be clear, if I don't understand the math behind quantum mechanics, I can't understand it. Well, that leaves very few people in this world that can speak on quantum mechanics. That's fancy. That's a very fancy thing. What is there? 7 people? I love it. My position on how the universe works, I think we are in I think the best way to explain it is that we're in an intelligently designed order, potentially like a simulation, something like Minecraft 9 million. I'm with Elon Musk and Bostrom and thinkers like that think that it's an information-based reality built around the consciousness of man. That's not true, Jast. The mathematicians do. All right, I'm going to bring on our guy. Hacking.
Oh, hello?
What's up, man?
Oh, you can hear me, right?
I got you, yeah.
Okay, like my thing's like darker. Might be a TikTok update.
Yeah, you
So
sound loud and clear.
So like I looked into some of the 9/11 stuff you told me to look into. I mean, I don't
Sweet.
believe Oh, what?
Sweet.
Oh, but I don't really believe the conspiracy. But like, I do think that you might have something there. Like like there's a lot of stuff that's sketchy about it. Like America's done like a lot of like bad stuff, but I don't think that they would kill that many people to start a war. I feel like they would do something like if they really want to start a war that bad, they would do something that would not have as many casualties. But maybe there's like an inside terrorist group or something. I don't think that there's enough evidence to say that it was an inside job, but I do think it's a little sketchy.
That's a really good deduction, and I appreciate that. And I would say, obviously I have to be careful with what I say about it, but I don't think it was America. I think it would have been a very small rogue group inside of like some clandestine small thing. So yeah, I don't think it was like,
Yeah.
ordered by the democratic process or anything. But yeah, like you said, there's some sketchy stuff, and one of the things that happens in this is that they pull something like this off, and then everybody looks for a person or a political group or a whatever, some sort of, you could point it at it. Same thing with Kennedy or whatever. And if they're as good as I think they are, and the ability to pull these kind of things off, they're not going to be able to be tied down to a single political or whatever special interest group. It's got to be more ambiguous than that. And I think you've got layers of ambiguity in there intentionally. I think you've got bits and pieces of people from different operations. CIA, PNAC was involved potentially, military-industrial complex. I mean, you don't have to look much further than what happened with the Kennedy assassination. There was potentially vice president. There was.
Well, I didn't look into the assassination yet, so I mean, I can't really say anything about that. But I don't know.
Well,
I don't think I'll. I mean, maybe I'll change my mind about it, but I don't feel like it will.
yeah, I would look into it. I mean, just forensically, look at the ballistics of in particular Kennedy's movement, his head. If the shot came from behind, like they purport, you would have his head going forward, but his head, he goes back and to the left, and you see a small bullet hole in here, and then a big one out the back. So, but then like how would they do that, right? And you've got a multi faceted assassination that would have involved media, government, police. Really interesting dive if you get into why the parade route was changed, ties to Miss Magazine and CIA. It gets pretty deep, like, and that's the thing. We've been looking at the Kennedy assassination for 60 years now, and like there's no real answer as who did it. We just kind of, like what I always say, we don't know who did it. We just know who didn't do it, which is Lee Harvey Oswald. But anyways. Yeah, I'm glad you're looking at 9/11, and it's just kind of like I get it as a conspiracy guy. It's like, ooh, something sinister, blah blah blah. It's hard for me to reconcile it any other way than there is a nefarious system, a clandestine group, and you can point a lot of things to it, but definitely speculation on my part. Did you want to talk more conspiracy? Because I looked into the things that you mentioned with me too, Tikataalik and Tijago, whatever his name is.
Oh, old Tijoko.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess you can talk. Oh, you can talk about this. I'm actually playing a game with my friend now. I didn't want to end it with him.
Okay,
so
yeah, come back later.
I mean, no. I mean, I can kind of focus on both of them. It's not that intense. I don't know.
All right, you guys vote. Do we want to keep hacking on while he talks with us and plays a video game, or do you want to see if he wants to come on later? Let the people vote. It's pretty clickety tackety. Let's see what happens to the first.
Oh, you can hear
all
my keyboard. Oh.
Yeah. Well, and I'm less concerned about the sound and more concerned about you having your attention, which is fine. I'm not like a teacher. I'm like, you look at me, but if you like, I don't want to make you do two things. Yeah. I'm gonna let you go for now. If you want to come back on later, we finish with your buddy. I'll be on for a little while.
Wait, how long though?
Hopefully, if all goes well, hopefully an hour and a half at least.
Okay.
All right, I'll see you later. If the Lord is willing and the creek don't rise. Let's bring in the next guest here. Reasonable one. The reasonable one and the voice of reasons. Should be good. Guest, can you hear me?
How you doing? Can you hear
Good.
me?
Yeah, I can. How are you?
Hey, in reference to your picture you got up there on the wall, I have a response that I want to bounce off your noggin and see what you think of it.
Ready.
Ready? Okay. At the top of the food pyramid, you usually see there's a small critters at the bottom, and then at the big one is like sharks and piranhas, whatever, at the top of the food pyramid, correct?
Right.
And then we want to place ourselves, humans, on top of that.
Right.
Well, what really is at the top of the food pyramid, ants, cockroaches, and then it actually breaks down to the top of the food pyramid. It has to be a bacteria of some sort, right?
Right.
That's what eats everything. Okay, in the concept of evolution, somewhere after quote the Big Bang, a single cell had to originate.
Right. That's a big problem for evolutionary biologists, but continue.
Yeah. Well, we know that within a living cell, none of the components can self-replicate.
Say
But
that
when the
again. I'm
cell
sorry. Say that again.
in a living cell, none of the components, mitochondria, chromosomes, ribosomes, RNA, DNA, chloroplast, none of them can self-replicate. But when the cell is complete, it can self-replicate and make them all. And we have been able to take a living cell, take a living component out of it, transfer it to another living cell, and have it change that cell. It's the
Okay.
concept of genetic modification of cells, right?
Hmm.
But once one of those items inside the cell physically go dead, then we cannot transplant it. It's like a human organ. If we take a liver out of a living human, we can take it and put it in another human, and it might grasp on, hold on, and become a living organ again in that new body. I think only the liver is capable of regenerating. Most other organs cannot self-generate, except no, they can't self-generate. Generate. Anyway, within the concept of evolution, how can you ever get to a evolving of a cell if none of the components can self-replicate until you get the entire complete cell? Does that seem to be an ultimate stopgap to evolution?
I this is going to show how much I need to research molecular biology, but I thought that the whole process of life creating was self-replication, cells splitting into two and then into four and so on. I'm kind of surprised by you
Yes,
saying that. Maybe I'm just misunderstanding how it actually works.
the cell can self-replicate and make the whole cell.
Mm.
Yes, once the cell is alive and complete.
Oh, okay. That's what I
But
was
in
missing.
order to get to that process, components had to evolve and somehow form a cell, a clump of cell, or groups of clumps, and become a cell. But they could never get to that point because they could never self-replicate, and they would physically die because they weren't inside of a cell.
I mean, I
I
kind
see
of get
there's
the
no
I
pathway. There's no pathway to evolve to get to that first ever cell.
Okay, so you're bouncing it off my noggin. My initial thought is, I think that another way to classify this would be irreducible complexity, and I think that you have a lot of irreducibly complex instances that you would have needed more than just the mechanism of random mutation of adaptation to explain. So I mean, in that sense, I can understand what you're saying. I don't think I'm fully tracking, unfortunately, but I think that I would take it a step back and say where that cell came from, because we know that cell is the result of the genetic blueprint of that cell. Like, people don't think about this, but as your body, when the egg is fertilized and it starts splitting and splitting and splitting, But one point, when you get to X amount of cells, one cell starts to become a brain cell, and one cell starts to become a digestive tract
Yeah.
cell, and it just kind of keeps happening. So in order for this to happen, you had to have the information to build the thing. So you're always going to come down to where did the information come from, because cells with like, or you believe that a cell happened and then DNA came later, which is, I think, pretty much ridiculous. But yeah, so kind of in the spirit of what you're saying, I think that there's a lot of such things, but I don't think I'm not exactly getting this idea of the live cell versus dead cell. I'm not able to make that connection in my brain, so I apologize.
In order to have a genetic mutation happen, it had to happen inside of a living cell.
Okay. Yeah, okay, I get that better now. That was worded
You've
better.
got to somewhere get to the point of having a living cell.
Right. And
And so,
you had to have the information for the coding for the new cell.
oh, well, that just complicates it a whole lot more. Yeah. But
Right?
even
Go
if
ahead.
they take coding and throw it out, in order to have a cell that just exists and does nothing, um, the components had to somehow self-replicate, when we know that has never ever happened.
Right.
And if they're dead, they can't self-replicate. Only if they're alive in a living cell can something be done with them to genetically modify, random mutate, or whatever word you want to call it.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
I kind of think it's a total stopgap, but you're right. It's hard to get that point across.
yeah, I think you're really close. The way you rephrased it the next time, I understood it a little bit better. I think that the live cell, dead cell thing is maybe what was throwing me off a little bit. But I think that you could take this idea of what you're talking about, and if you try to go back to what this mechanism would look like, I was having this discussion with my apologist friend earlier today. We were talking about the structure in the hand, the arm configuration of Tiktaalik, and you have this scenario where they think that evolution would be better off to say we randomly evolved a pinky. Somebody just had a pinky, and then now good, we're good with the pinky. But what it actually teaches is that something started anatomically, a non-functioning part of the pinky that in the aggregate, hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years, became a functional pinky. So you actually have these small incremental changes of design changes that didn't have a net positive effect for the entity, individual life force that was doing it. It was something that was going to be only seen down the road. So long form planning through a micro evolutionary process. And I don't think that makes sense. And yeah, I agree. I mean, to me, the whole thing, it breaks down like when Watson and Crick decoded the genome and they realized it was information and it was a blueprint set. I think I think the whole thing was kind of would ruined. And as we understood, because even Darwin thought that cells were very simple. He had no idea the intricacies of everything that was going on in it. So I agree. When you look at the research of somebody like James Tour, who's a microbiologist, involved in trying to create life in laboratories and building, nano machines, it is so complicated at that level to just think that it was some unguided natural process in the reality that we see, which is entropically constantly degrading and going into ruin. It's very hard to justify, in my opinion.
I totally agree with you. And how seemingly intelligent people can go down that road and actually be honest about it confounds me to the most.
Well, let me explain it what I believe, and I could be wrong, but basically, we are adults that are kind of living out the memories and dreams and events of our childhood. As adults, our subconscious runs our reality. This is why people have autoimmune conditions and mental distress and sometimes physiologic distress and OCD and neurosis or mania or all these different kind of things, fixations. We're not doing this consciously. Like it's a subconscious thing, and that subconscious was a result of our childhood, largely our parents, our school system, our being bullied, abuse, neglect, whatever, terrible things. Unfortunately, as children, a lot of us were subject to many terrible things, and they defined us in a way that we're largely unaware of. And so, what happens, I think, with atheism, it can also happen with Christianity too, is at that point where you really had to make a decision about what you believed, something influenced you at a psycho-emotional level that you had to choose a side. And then what happens is when you choose this side, there is a God or there isn't a God. You largely, and this is the majority of the people, you spend the rest of your time aggregating information to confirm your bias, to support your worldview. And so when you do this for years, well, now you add the pride component and the time invested in the thing that you believe, and it becomes very hard to kind of change these ideas. Well, when you let's just say an example. You were raised in a religious home. Your parents were abusive, hypocritical. They were the pastor of the church, yada, 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 whatever. You're like, this sucks. I'm miserable. I'm like, God is being shoved down my throat. My parents are assholes. This is just an example. You go to university and they go, your parents were wrong. There is no God. The Big Bang happened. We're just evolved animals, and the science supports it. And you go, fuck, I knew it. I totally knew that. I knew they were wrong. I love my parents, or don't love them, whatever, but I knew they were wrong. They can't have been right with the way that they were living and what they did to me. So now, university instills through programming, and I've read a lot of the lecture series, a lot of the instructional manuals. When did this happen this time? When did this happen that time? What do you do if somebody says this? This is where they're wrong. You end up you get this worldview kind of programmed into you, and built into this worldview is the hubris of intellectual high ground that anyone who doesn't believe what you say is stupid. And they've done this for hundreds of years. And so how people would do it, look, we all have to believe something. And the data, I can tell you this, the data by their presentation is believable enough, unless you really start pulling back the layers and doing the research for yourself, that they end up believing it fully, and then you end up in like fight or flight, and people are attacking you and you're defending them, and we ended up at this point it becomes an atheist and myself are in the same boat. I believe what I believe, they believe what they believe, my evidence supports what I believe, their evidence supports what they believe. And to say you don't understand it, they might say we don't understand why you would believe in a skydad, and it's kind of irreconcilable. So with this platform, what I try to do is say, look, the science isn't settled. If you believe that and you're sure you believe it, great, but you at least have to push back a little bit on what you were taught, because it's entirely possible it was misinformation, ironically.
I've been there. I hear you. The problem even gets more compounded if you're in that scientific field, and the moment you express belief in a higher being, your career is pretty much at a standstill or terminated.
Right. Or
no
even the threat of it, because you can be ruined, and you would be if you came in and you said, I want to teach intelligent design in Harvard. You'd be fucking ruined. You'd be ruined, absolutely. But there's also, if you somehow make it to that level where you want to be a scientist and you want to push intelligent design, the stigma involved with it. You can accept. You could say something like, okay, we could be intelligently designed, but I'm never going to, speak heresy against the sacred cow of evolution, Darwin's religious system. And this is generationally known. So you just if somehow somebody slipped through the cracks, they wouldn't be able to make it any further. So what you end up having are rogue intelligent design scientists who have scientific, what would you call them? Endeavors, publications, laboratories, teaching curriculum, these kind of things. But they're totally marginalized, totally discredited, totally poo-pooed by academia. So when people come on my show and they go, well, science has said, it's peer-reviewed, science has said, yeah, an echo chamber. Scientists that think alike, that were allowed to get to that level because they're all in the same belief system, they agree on the same thing. It's, two wolves voting on what's for dinner,
For every one of those creatures you got behind you, Cro-Magnon man, Peking man, Neanderthal man, all of them, we actually possess and have in museums the data, the items that they made their extrapolation from. And we can go look at those things today and say, this is not transmutation or a missing link. This is a pig's tooth, and that's a deer's femur. And we know what it is through comparative anatomy. And every single one of them is bogus. They made a jump because they needed a grant. They needed a new find to justify their grant to stay in business. And that's what happens in the whole field. It's driven by money and success, and anything that you need to do to get it going down the road, you do. And
I
then
want.
once they create the lie, then you keep on telling the lie over and over again to where you
Right.
actually believe the lie.
Right.
And you know it's a lie. And one of the most awesome current examples of this is we had an ambassador to Sweden. And when he was younger, he fabricated a story about being in a war and being in combat and got sunk on a Navy ship and was rescued, come back to America, tells that to his buddies. He actually gets elected to Congress and becomes a senator, an ambassador to Switzerland. Okay. At
Okay.
his eulogy, they told his story. In the crowd was in the Navy, they have a person that looks after the bunks and the personnel on the ship. And I think it's called not a midshipman. I forgot the title of it. Anyway, he knows every person and what they do and where they come from on that boat. Well, he happened to be listening to this eulogy, and he thought back and says, "You know what? That guy wasn't on my boat." And he started speaking up about it. And after they did the research, they found out the ambassador was never in the military, was never on a Navy boat. It was a total lie. Well, when he died, he got buried in Arlington. Okay.
Yep.
They had to take his body out of Arlington and move him somewhere else. It embarrassed the family to the highest end. I wish I could remember this guy's name. Sorry about the dog. Anyway, let him go by. Okay. Anyway,
Did your
so
dog just bark and then drive away?
yes.
I'm leaving, Dad. I've got to go get some bones. Sorry.
The elder showed up, and he's greeting his best buddy. Anyway, so everybody in the neighborhood knows it too. Uh, anyway, so yeah, everybody in the family, everybody in Congress, everybody everywhere believed this lie and repeated the lie until this. What was this guy's title? Anyway, the guy that knows his boat says that was not true, and he had the data to prove it and demonstrate it,
Right.
and it actually caused a big stir. And he was the ambassador to Sweden.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that's just a great example of we can tell lies to ourselves and to everybody else involved so many times that it replaces reality.
Right. And then the who wrote man, I was Mark I always get his name wrong. Mark Twain. I always get him and his character Tom Sawyer mixed up. I always want to call him like Mark Tom or Tom Sawyer. But anyways, he said it's easier to fool someone than convince someone they've been fooled.
Yes, it
So
is.
yeah, and I
Yep.
just think like I'll get a little bit conspiracy here, and then I'm gonna let you go because I got some other people. But I think what to me it's pretty simple how this happened, and basically the whether you want to just think it was people escaping religious control of the Catholic Church via the Age of Enlightenment. If you research the Age of Enlightenment, they were very specifically intending to shift the paradigm into a secular scientific order, basically. But basically, you had this religious control group, the Catholic Church, that was unfairly controlling people and using God as their justification, even though Jesus was like, money doesn't matter, render unto Caesar, don't control people, serve, blah, blah, blah. They were just totally doing anti-Jesus things. And so people were like, that's it, we're out of here. The Lutheran Reformation happened. Gutenberg printed the Bible. Everybody had access to it. And they go, wow, they're totally full of shit. So they end up leaving, and they're escaping religious freedom. And that's how they came to America, the Puritans. But at the same time, in Europe, you have this whole Renaissance, which is what they called it, of moving into a secular order. And so, sure, you had guys like Newton who were theists. They were the believers in intelligent design. But you have this whole wave of people coming in saying, we are going to explain this reality without a God, in a wild endeavor that had never happened. Everybody had always believed in God or gods, or fish gods and air gods and cloud gods and all these things. They're like, we're going to explain this reality with no gods. And it's like, well, that's a problem because it's really well designed. You got the sun, the moon, day, night, hot, cold, perfect genetic reproduction, food coming out of the ground, photosynthesis. We got all these things. It's like, how do we do it? Well, we'll figure out the science side of it later. But for now, we're just going to get on every publication. We're going to assemble a group of scientists who preach the philosophy of secular or natural sciences. That's a very innocuous term, natural science. Natural science means no God science. That's what it means. And we're going to figure out how to explain this without a God. And so when you research guys like Darwin and Darwin's mouthpiece, Huxley, Thomas Henry Huxley, and of the other magnates, the other people who really created the intellectual environment that we exist in today, the intellectual natural science environment that we're in today, they knew that if they had a multi-pronged, full-spectrum attack, attack might not be the right word, where they control the science, you don't have access to their information, they tell you the thing, don't ask about the paper, don't worry about it, we'll figure out the details later. We'll figure out the details of the science later. For now, we believe what we believe, and you will also believe what we believe. And they pushed this for 200 years, and now we live in a climate, 85% of the people in this country believe in the theory of evolution, 85%, that's a big number. It's a big number. And why? Do they have access to the information? Do they have the bones to look at? Do they have the telescopes to look at? Do they actually have access to the information? No. They believe what somebody told them. And what somebody told them was the institution. And the institution tells this as fact, and I'm pissed off about it.
I know. And there's really no fix for it because you have to go through the institution to correct the institution.
Right. And they won't let you in. It's a club and you're not invited.
Yeah. Mainline media and the news today, there's very difficult access to real truth or real news. And they tell the story and everybody bites it and eats it and believes it. Anyway, it's been great talking to you.
Yeah, brother. Thank you for your knowledge.
Okay. You have a good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, before I bring my next guest on, Jast, you believe scientific claims because they work. Jast, for you to say I should stop telling people why they believe something, no, I won't, because they're not doing the research. They're being told something and they believe it because they were told it. It's no different than religious indoctrination, Jast. Come on the show. You said specifically, because you talk a lot about your scientific claims, you think that they have predictive powers. I want you to come on and give me you take a couple minutes, okay, get your notebook, get your Googles. I want you to get your 5 best pieces of evidence that was predicted that we found, and we'll go at them piece by piece. And at the end of this, we'll see if the predictive powers match the claims, because if not, it's a belief. Yes, you believe something. You seem to be an aberration of the thing. We've talked about it. You seem to be an aberration. I think you have entirely too much trust in what you were taught, but you've also done your research. So, again, come on, bring your claims, and we'll talk about it. So, digital philosophy, I'd like to tell you, you said you're an agnostic Buddhist. I totally appreciate that worldview. Buddhism doesn't really deal with the science of cosmogony of creation. Buddhism is about balance. Buddhism doesn't talk about where the universe comes from. They largely either think it's a steady state universe or they leave that to science. Buddhism is a life management belief system that is very conducive of health and success. And one of the things I like about Buddhism is it doesn't make erroneous claims to validate its worldview. It's like the least culty thing there is in religion. And so I appreciate that worldview. And I a Buddhist and I have never had a disagreement because they go, shit, yeah, we don't know. I don't know. We got to breathe and eat right and like pay attention to mind right and things like that. And if we do, we're good. And we don't know where it came from. Buddha didn't try and tell you. Buddha didn't say no shit about the Big Bang and monkeys and you're a tadpole. Nothing like that. Cool. Digital philosophy. I appreciate it. Awesome, man. Yeah, and it's cool. Like, again, it's, first off, I mean, I love all people, but the rich, brilliant history and efficacy of the Asian cultures, all of them, it's amazing. And, unfortunately, here in America, where we're taught this patriotic, America-centric, military-industrial complex supporting system, supporting consensual slavery system that we're in, we're not taught about how amazing other histories are. But the Chinese history, the Japanese history, amazing people. And I've known a lot of them. I actually helped Chinese people immigrate to America at one point in my life, which is an interesting job to have had. Some of the nicest people I've ever known, and just good people, not sullied by religion or atheism. Okay. Who do we have here? We've got Dan. I'm keeping you in queue. That's not hacking. Can you tell me whether or not you're actually on a video game or not? Because I'm not going to have you on if you're on a video game. If you're off your video game, I'll bring you on. I'd like to get Simon or Jast with you. I don't think it's going to be fair to have Dan and I against just one person. I think we need to go 2 for 2 here. All right. And on Connor.
Hey, what's up?
Guest, you can hear me?
This is Connor.
Guest, sorry.
Oh, guest. Okay.
But I was saying Jast earlier, and I mumble, so I can see where you get that. Yeah, guest, so you can hear me. That's good. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
What would you like to talk
about? I've been watching for a few minutes here. The conversation with the other gentleman. And first of all, I want to explain a few things. I'm not here to, disprove what you believe in or tell you what, you believe in is, not valid or whatever. Your faith is your own deal, and you're free to have that faith. Okay.
I appreciate that.
I want to kind of strictly talk about just science and science in schools.
Yeah, great.
And the Big Bang and evolution, as you have up here, are not settled science. So I see your frustration, and why isn't the intelligent design not added into those books?
I don't lobby for that at all. I don't think intelligent design should be taught. I don't think that evolution should be taught. I think that science should be taught. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate your opening statement. I'll let you get back to it, but just to be clear, I don't. I see the problem because I'm like, you have to teach intelligent design. Which one? Jewish? Nope. Muslim? Indian? Whatever. I get that. I think that we leave. I think we leave science in science class, and I think that we leave origins to a theology class. We should do a speculative, where do we come from, what are we doing here class, and in that one, teach all of these things, not in science.
Okay, so you do agree that all of these things should be taught, but not in a science class.
I think that when science, one of my big issues with science is they have entirely blurred, if not intentionally obfuscated, the line between science and religion. And what pisses me off more than anything is them teaching a religious belief as science. Let science teach science. And if you want to talk about when the hell we got here and how we did, aliens, God, the Big Bang, we're monkeys, we're fish people, we're the Anunnaki, whatever, great. That can be in theology or call it origins. Just go to origin class. You go to origin class, we don't know fucking when or how, whatever, I don't know. Go there. Here's all the different beliefs. Choose your own adventure. Don't tell this isn't science.
Yeah, so what got me on here is you were explaining how things eventually got whittled down to, me being, uh, somebody who leans towards maybe evolution or the Big Bang Theory, and you or someone else who is an intelligent design person being eventually on the same level when they get into a debate or whatever, right? And that that is a total like belief or faith based thing, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to get like weird nihilist philosophy here, but it's hard to prove that yesterday exists, right? We all know that thought experiment. It's hard to prove we're not just brains in a vat. This reality is complicated. Somebody earlier said they wanted me to explain my beliefs. I think it's pretty evident, and I think that it's becoming more and more evident as our science and our technology and instrumentation gets better that we are in an information-based reality, a perfectly designed or at least good designed reality, probably or potentially based on the consciousness of man. I say that you, as a probably science minded, other people go, "Holy shit, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard." That's because we were
Hmm.
taught to believe that we're just animals in an accidental universe. As far as which the evidence supports more, and this is where we plan to get evolutionists on here, and maybe you are one, it's surprisingly telling how little evidence there is for this. I would say that if you could get an intellectually honest court case where people provided the evidence for we don't know intelligent design or we know these natural sciences, natural science would finish last, I think, by clearly, if we get an intellectually honest trial. And so, we're going to talk about kind of the philosophy and the ideologies, and that's great. That's where I excel in. But if we get into the actual science, it's sparse, if not embarrassingly not in support of this.
Yeah. So what I was getting at is the difference between the two, right?
Mm-hmm.
Intelligent design and Big Bang, um, and why there is a difference to begin with. Um, and my thought is that um, a lot of intelligent design, theories on how everything works is the logic is kind of circular. You know, um, I believe in God. God told me how it is. You know, uh,
Right.
so
The
it's like
books. The book says it. Well, how do
yeah.
we know?
So
Because it's written in the
so
book. Yeah.
right. So it's totally circular, and it's something that answers all of the questions, right? And it keeps us from progressing or looking uh, for the truth, right?
Wrong. I mean, what's going to happen? I think we're going to have a really, hopefully, cordial discussion. I'm sorry for being kind of a little bit abrasive, but
Hmm.
you just said that intelligence design's mistake is that they're invoking God, and that limits us from looking for the truth. Well, if God is the truth, then they're not separate pursuits.
Right, but it's based off of it's based off of circular logic, right? So there's the evidence that is prevented is evidence that is circular. So inherently, if we're
Let
going to
me
be talking about like a logic based argument, one that isn't
right.
based on like belief or anything, it is um, not a valid logical argument.
Okay. Couldn't agree. I couldn't disagree any more with you. A couple things. Do I guess the first thing is you think that you don't believe in the science of the Big Bang or the natural sciences. You think that it's scientifically like you have the truth and mine is a belief, right?
No. So I think that one has uh, more clues to what the truth is than the other. I mean, I don't think any scientist were or like any accredited scientist or any scientist worth any of their salt would say that the Big Bang or evolution are totally, settled science. The Big Bang theory, I mean, it's not even a full developed model. There's still big holes in the model to begin with. So no scientist is going to tell you that. Zero.
Okay, I appreciate that. Then the next thing is my belief in intelligent design being circular logic. I don't say that the Bible said so, therefore I believe it. I look at the aggregate of information and the potential of explaining it by chance, random accident, or intelligent design. And to say, like, what with you saying that it's circular logic, I've used this analogy before, but if you found my phone in the dirt, you're on a hike and you find my phone and you go, oh, that looks kind of shiny, and you pull it up and you're like, well, it's like smooth glass, but lightning could have hit that, and you're like, oh, well, it's perfectly symmetrical. That could have happened. And then it lights up and it has numbers on it. Eventually you'd go, just something, I don't know what, but something probably designed this. That would not be circular logic.
I mean, if you were going to tell me that I live in a world where phones don't exist, and I find one on the dirt trail, I would have to go down a line of logic to prove that it was intelligently designed. In a world where I know phones exist, of course I know that there's a creator to the phone.
Right. No, in this reality, the phone doesn't exist, right? It's technology you've never seen of it. Like, let's say it's 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, whatever, and you find the phone in that reality.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily believe that it was intelligently designed by somebody.
Even if it lit up and it had information on it, even if it had words on it, even if it had like,
but see, this is why this is, and I'm not gonna say that you're trying to do this, but this argument is a tad dishonest because what you're presenting to me is something where I need to imagine a world where none of this actually exists, and I wouldn't know what a light source on a screen is or anything is. So presenting that to me in front of like a bunch of people, it seems like wow, I'm not really being faithful to the argument, but in reality, like for the analogy to be actually correct, I would need to be living in a world where none of this actually exists.
Right,
And
but
none of it, even the letters, even the anything.
Right. I didn't say it was a coherent script. I just said there was information on the screen, which is what DNA possibly is. My point is, I'm not trying to get you to say we're an intelligently designed universe. I'm showing you your bias and your belief and the strength of your belief in the system when I say in this thought experiment that my deduction, looking at all of these things, I think that there was probably intelligent design to this, is not circular logic.
Based on what, though?
Based on my deductions as a rational, logical thinking human being and the assimilation of data and the points congruent to how I perceive this, if I looked at this and I said I think it's intelligently designed, it wouldn't be circular logic. It would be my best guess based on my interpretation of the data. And so I just want you to know, in like what seems to be you being like, it's nice. I'm fired up. I always am. But you're coming in and it's like, it's okay. You can have your funny God belief. We believe in science. But I just want you to know that so far twice, first off, you've said that I am basically denying the truth, and what I'm looking for is a non-truth, like admittedly. And the next thing is that believing in intelligent design is circular logic, and I'm pointing out those aren't scientifically or logically.
But I'm trying to get you to go down the line of logic that you're using for the phone, because I think at the end of the day, it's going to be circular logic.
Okay, go for it.
So you're saying based on your belief and your logic. So what logic are you talking about? We're living in a world that this thing doesn't even exist.
I'm talking about looking at the understanding that we have of the mechanism of the universe and of life and the irreducibly complex, what I say is apparent design, and taking these and trying to find the most logical deduction for what is the explanatory power. And here's an example. I obviously I'm confident that you're a subscriber to the Big Bang Theory being the best model that we have. I don't think you said earlier you don't believe it 100%, but you think it's probably the
Hmm.
best model for cosmogony, right?
Yeah, probably.
So and you're familiar with the anthropic principle or the fine tuning argument, the cosmologic constants, right? You're familiar with that?
Um, I mean, probably not the definitions. I'm not. I'll be honest. I don't know what the definitions are, but if you explain them to me, they might remind me of
So
what you're
there's,
talking about.
I believe it's 22 cosmologic constants. A couple of them off the top of my head are the speed of light, the gravitational pull,
Oh, right.
the heat properties, all of the
Hmm. Right.
parameters by which every mechanism or everything works in this universe. So with the Big Bang having, we're going to punt on, singularity and where it started, but the fact that it expanded the way it did and stars formed and planets formed and everything didn't go to quick heat death or expand and contract or die of an ice death, the way that it happened, cosmology, astrophysics says that it's in borderline impossible, definitely improbable, and that it's finely tuned enough that they try to invoke a mechanism by which, because if you're in what looks like an intelligently
Yeah.
designed universe, you go, wow, somebody designed it. So they've come up with a rescuing device
Right.
for this to explain it. And do you know what
You're
it
talking about
is?
dark matter, right?
Dark matter is a part of it. Dark matter is something they didn't
Yeah.
understand as to why it was homogeneously expanding. You think that you would have
Hmm.
different speeds, but and accelerating in its expansion. But basically,
Yeah.
the answer to why it's perfectly fine tuned, but there doesn't have to be a designer or it wasn't intended, is they invoke the multiverse. You've heard the term multiverse.
Yeah.
And the multiverse says that we are one of an infinite amount of big bangs, that there has been an infinite amount of universes created. And in some of them, it's too fast, the speed of light's too slow, some of it's too fast, it's too hot, too cold, whatever. And so, because of this, every other universe didn't exist, we don't know, but this one just happened to work out, and we happen to be in it. And literally, this is
Hmm.
their deduction for why it's perfectly tuned, is because of the multiverse. So, in my logic, it makes more sense to me. And I think if you're being intellectually honest, the path of least resistance is to say, well, it's perfectly designed because something designed it. Science, natural science, says, well, no, it's perfectly designed because there's an infinite amount of universes, and we happen to be in the right one. Which one of those is circular logic?
So, I think a few things you're skipping over is all of the things that the theory does explain and is observable and replicatable. Um, what you're talking about is what I
Wait,
alluded to
what's
earlier.
replicatable?
So, the speed of light, uh, gravitational pull, quarks. There's certain experiments with radiation degradation. There's a few things that are pieces to the puzzle of the entire theory, and then there's some empty spots where they're speculating. Um, and this area that you're talking about is a speculation.
Okay.
So
So,
and like I'm not here to to prove the theory of the Big Bang to you. All I'm saying is that um, my belief is the one that the most evidence supports.
okay. Uh, uh, Okay, let's just say that that's really where you're at. Is that
Hmm.
you think my belief is valid enough that it's okay that I believe it, but that your belief you have more evidence for it. So we get to this point in the discussion. Can we talk about the evidence?
I'm not a physicist, so I wouldn't know the specifics on evidence for the Big Bang Theory or
That's
evolution.
circular reasoning. You just said that your belief system is based on evidence, but you don't have the evidence. That's circular reasoning.
Yeah, but I see I see that um, definitely. But unless you get like a physicist on here, I don't think you're going to get a discussion on
Oh,
hardcore in-depth
get
physics.
get a physicist, because here's my whole point. What you actually mean is that you sound like you're an intelligent person. You've probably gone to university. That what
Hmm.
you've been taught is that people who believe in intelligent design are incapable. They don't understand true science, and that you do understand true science, and your worldview isn't even a belief; it's valid. But you don't actually know what the evidence is because you're actually just going off the philosophy that you were taught, which is the whole fucking point of what I'm doing here.
I'm not trying to say that people who believe in intelligent design don't understand science. All I'm saying is that um, the biggest difference between the two are one is very clear about um, its shortcomings, and it doesn't try to set the whole proof in front of you until it's 100% proven. Um, and the other just uses a deity to explain how everything works and how everything operates. So uh, yeah, the point is like if you end up leaning on a deity to explain how everything works for you, then how can you know if there what is actual truth?
Okay, so I don't know just as much as you don't know. We have equal amounts of not knowing. I
Mm-hmm.
believe and you believe. I believe in an intelligent designer. You believe in science. It's just kind of what this is. And I've studied this long enough to tell you that neither of us are going to be proven right or wrong. When I have these discussions, like if you look at this, how I word this, is the universe intelligently designed? They are not settled science. Do you believe in the picture below? A lot of these people say God is real. God is real. People say God isn't real. It's going to be a moot point, and I don't want to make it nihilist, like I said earlier. But at the end of the day, we don't know. We can't prove or disprove either. But what a big part of what I'm doing is trying to get people to break the programming. If you've watched my series on the system, which you probably have not, I believe that we've been programmed. I think that we're under like basically a mass hypnosis to just believe whatever the authorities say. And part of it is this system. We know when, we know how, we know how to fix you, we know how to do it. We're the ones, we're the source. You got to trust us. And I'm very passionate about showing that the emperor doesn't have clothes. It's a lot of regalia. It's a lot of propaganda. And so I don't know if there's a God. I've said I believe that there's a God. You don't know there isn't a God. You believe there isn't a God, and that's fine. As far as me invoking an intelligent design, I want to use a thought experiment. I think this is an important one. Mario, in his reality, becomes sentient, or just wonders one day, why is he banging his head against these bricks? What in the hell are these coins good for? Why am I eating mushrooms? Why am I pursuing the princess? And he started asking these questions, and he starts looking at the nature of his reality, and he goes, when I do this, this happens. How does it happen? And he starts reconciling. He pulls Luigi's side, and he goes, Luigi, what are we doing here? It's like, I don't know. And they're like trying to figure out how they got there. How did their reality come into existence? When did it happen? We don't know. Well, they could never understand that they're in a computer program, that they're in a side scrolling 8-bit reality. They could never understand that they didn't exist except for in the place of potentiality until somebody hit the power button. Somebody hit the power button. There was an influx of power coming from the wall, which that power came from a nuclear power plant or whatever. Computer engineers had designed the software coding. Mechanical engineers had designed the actual Nintendo. And an individual, Shigeki, I forget his name. I always get it wrong, but there's an official creator for Mario, had this idea of Mario and worked with this team to build it. Mario could never understand that there's a Japanese man, a flesh and blood character living in a three-dimensional flesh and blood, oxygen breathing, this reality. He couldn't reconcile it from his reality. But if Mario and Luigi are having this discussion, and if in this case, you could be Mario or Luigi, I don't care. Either one, whichever one you want to be. More, it's like, did somebody make us a Mario? I don't know, Luigi. I think somebody made this. I don't think they did. They're the same valid. Neither people are going to know. But for Mario to think that a Japanese guy or somebody made it isn't an error in logic. It's just not. And that's what pisses me off, is thinking that we are, like, again, we haven't even asked once who I believe the creator would be or what my belief system is. My point specifically is that the belief that what looks to be a finely tuned, information-based reality being the result of a mind isn't a dishonest intellectual pursuit. Plato and Democritus used to have this discussion 2,000 years ago.
I was just going to bring up Plato because it sounded like you were talking about the same thing.
Right. This is idealism versus materialism. This is the discussion. And in a world where you can be intellectually honest, you can have the discussion of idealism and materialism, and it can boil down to, wow, I don't know. Did physical reality create a mind, or did a mind create physical reality? I don't know. Good talk. But we don't live in that world, Connor. We live in a world where if I believe in idealism, I'm wrong because the materialists run the fucking show.
So let me ask you. Let me take this at a different angle.
Right.
So, if you are not a believer in science, how do you tell what an objective reality is?
You honestly don't think I believe in science, Connor? We've had this discussion. You don't think I believe in science? Why does me, fuck, why do I have to not believe in God to believe in science? Why?
I'm because it sounds like you are a big doubter of the process. So I made that leap in logic that
that because I believe in an intelligent designer, I don't believe in science. Holy shit!
No, you were
not mad
talking
at
about
you.
the
I'm just
scientific process, and you were saying how certain like indoctrination teaches these things.
will you
Um,
will you do me a
so
favor
that's
and
where it wasn't because you're a creationist or whatever. It was because you were talking about science as a whole as if it's a big conspiracy.
yeah, well, I'm a certified conspiracy theorist. You don't follow me, but yeah, I'm a conspiracy theorist as well. So you said I'm not a believer in the scientific process. Can you please try to explain to me the scientific process?
Yeah, it goes through a hypothesis, a series of testing, and theory, and then retesting, right? And then after that is law. Pretty much. I don't know the exact flow chart off the top of my mind, but that's the basics.
So part of it is that you come up with a hypothesis,
Mm-hmm.
and then you look at the data, you run experiments, and throughout this process, you have to remain a rigorous skeptic. You have to remain a
Right.
rigorous skeptic because confirmation bias it will take control, and you will skew the results based on your confirmation bias.
Right.
Do you
Exactly.
think that the current scientific dog and pony show that we are in is rigorously skeptic of their belief in the Big Bang, in natural sciences? Do you think that they give metaphysical reality, like, are they rigorously skeptical to prove a material reality without, doubting the metaphysical as a possibility?
Well, I think there's a few things to unpack there. Number one, your first question. I definitely, I see the problems in science, right? I understand it, and I get it. I did go to college. Some of my good friends were, are still working in laboratories, and I know the whole process of getting grant money. So I know the actual issues, but also, what else is there? So that's kind of the answer to that question. There's no real other um, system which treats something like what you just said, rigorous testing, and be the person that is the most critical of your own science, right? That is the
Right.
the base, and what I believe. um and to answer your other question about why not give the metaphysical a shot, I think it's because it's something that it's kind of hard to go through that whole line of thinking. So you have a hypothesis that God exists. Then what? How do you test it? How do you figure it out? So
Right.
it's kind of something that's it's impossible to prove or disprove.
So I totally agree with everything you just said. And I'm not saying that we need to put. Okay, a couple things. I don't think that we should teach in school that God created this reality. I don't think that we should teach in school that we know exactly how it happened and that we're all descendants of this. I know I said earlier I would say in more of an origins class. I think that the idea of metaphysics, we don't know what that means. It's just something supernatural, something outside of the standard nature as we know it. And I would say that quantum physics kind of bizarrely fits into this idea. And I think that when Einstein, he came up with the theory of relativity, and it's a good theory. I think there's a couple flaws with it, but it's, I understand why it's, stood the test of time so far. But even Einstein was so sold out to this space-time matter paradigm that when quantum physics came out, he really grappled with it. And he called quantum entanglement spooky action at a distance. He said, this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense
Mm-hmm.
that two particles in an infinite distance apart from each other could communicate. There's limits. There's a speed limit. It's the speed of light. Information can't travel faster than the speed of light. How does this happen?
Mm-hmm.
Called it spooky action at a distance. And then he spent the latter part of his life trying to reconcile his purely materialist natural science, which he's a major progenitor of this idea, with quantum physics. So in a sense, you could say that he was trying to reconcile the natural and the supernatural. He wasn't able to. The unified field theory was a failure. He admitted it. I don't know if it was on his deathbed or at the end. He wasted a lot of time because he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
He was guilty of the grand scientific sin of sniffing your own farts. That's it. No one's ever said that. Sorry. But he's believed it, and he's like, well, I dismiss. What does Adam Savage say in MythBusters? I refuse your reality and substitute my own, or something along those
Mm-hmm.
lines.
Yeah.
But quantum physics is showing this idea that the consciousness of man, man and woman, human, affects the state of particles. That doesn't make any sense in a purely materialist reality. And I just think that if people want to do good science, like you sound like you have the potential to do good science if you pursue that field professionally. You have to be a rigorous skeptic. You have to be a rigorous skeptic of not just God, but of the sciences that we have been taught. Because the way it works is those that can't do teach, and those that teach the things that people who question the system figured out. Okay? We have to swim against the stream here. We have to think critically. We have to go, what is actually going on? I've been taught some things. Is it accurate? And I think if people are there intellectually, first off, I have no question, no issues with them at all. I had a theoretical physicist in here the other day who basically was like, yeah, physicists are real scientists. They just rip each other always. Nobody buys into it. She was like, I was kind of concerned about the theory of evolution because it seemed kind of dogmatic. And then she found out there's issues with the Lucy bones and a bunch of other bones. And she goes, I started looking at this as a scientist. She's like, this theory is non-science. Theoretical physics is science, and what we're figuring out there is much more exciting than this. And she goes, and she asked me, why are they teaching this as fact? And to me, it goes like this. If we are in a simulated reality, I want to go back to, not that it's a good argument for me to keep going back to like video game analogies, but in the movie The Matrix, Neo became sentient and powerful and could control the Matrix with his mind. I think we have a potentiality like that of being able to control matter. Well, if we are in a Matrix kind of thing, Agent Smith didn't want Neo to know that he could defeat them. He could manipulate reality. He could do these kind of things. Neo wouldn't have gone to school and learned about quantum physics and metaphysics. He would have learned, it's a natural order. You're just an animal. Don't ask any questions. Go to your job. And I think that it's very similar in this system. I think that we are being programmed to disbelieve our potential, and because the system in charge is very comfortable with being in charge. The system in charge, whether you want to believe in a conspiracy or just ruling elites, or if you just want to believe in like the World Economic Forum and like shareholder corporatocracy, whatever, these people at the top need to stay up there and need to keep us down here. And the biggest way to do that is to teach everybody you're an animal and not ask any questions, and you got to trust them for everything. And I think this is a bigger kind of philosophy of what we see going on with it. And again, I oppose that system, and it would take a lot for me to change my thinking, unfortunately. But anyways, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. I can see that. And you know what? I could, from that standpoint, I could definitely, me and you disagreeing on the very like basics of this issue. But, in school, I could see, why are we really teaching kids this? Me being a proponent of this idea, do they really need to know it until they get into like theoretical physics or anthropology? Probably not.
Right.
We could probably get rid of that course and teach them like how to do their taxes or something like that instead.
Or teach them what it boils down to is that blind faith and obedience to a system ran by psychopaths is a bad fucking idea. It's really that simple. And so whether it's like, dropping your kid off and going, here you go, making a little worker out of my kid. I don't care what happens, whatever. He could be tormented and bullied and abused. He might not come home. That doesn't matter, but I got to have a good worker, social pressure, whatever. Like, we have to think critically. We have to, I think it's a good idea. I think it's a healthy idea to question authority, right? Because that wasn't domesticated out of me. But literally in my platform, I say question the authority. I get my account shut down. I get people that, blast me, whatever. And where's that coming from? I always say in my videos, if you think I'm a conspiracy theorist and you think that I'm a problem, where do you think you got that idea from? We need to be able to question the system. And I'm talking about like, it would be, would you concede this one point to me? Is it so hard to believe if they're teaching us poor money management and, you have to go to college and you have to be in this kind of debt and you have to get a mortgage and you have to get a car and you have to keep up with the Joneses and you have to vote and you have to do all these things. They're going to control the narrative about everything you should be doing. Is it so far out of bounds to think that they would teach you all of these things but then be totally dead honest with you about science and our origins?
I hate to do it to you, but I can't get on board there. It's hard. This is where it draws a line for me. It's anything that takes a certain amount of people to cooperate to do. So the more people it takes to perform a task, the more likelihood there is to fail. So let me explain that a little bit better. There are only a certain amount of human beings that can sit and cooperate and do something. And science, or whatever you want to call it, has told us about like 100,000 people. Any more than that can't really do and perform a task without there being a certain amount of like degrity
entropy
to the system, an entropy, right? So like eventually you get to enough, like you get to like 200,000 people and 20,000 people are screwing up and not doing their job, or like they're like there's not enough auditing of the actual people. And I guess like what my point is boiling down to is when I'm not a big believer that you can get so many people to organize towards a cause like that. And it's the
Yeah,
same thing with all like massive theories.
you don't need to. It's really simple. Go back to the pyramid scheme. You have 1, 2, 4, 6 people at the top. You have your subclass. It's compartmentalized. So the subclass either is fully aware or somewhat aware. By the time you get to the third level, all they're hearing is the information from the middle level. You don't have to coordinate the whole thing. It's very few people at the top. It's the consolidation of the control of information. I would encourage you to look up, because you're with me on the. You're with me because you are bright and you're scientifically minded. So you know that the Rockefeller General Education Board was instrumental in the development of the compulsory public education system in America. So you understand that. The General Education Board in Rockefeller also created the modern medical system. Same thing, General Education Board, the MD system. He did it all. That guy with Carnegie created our medical system. Guess what else he was involved in? Look up the Rockefeller Science and Research Center and how influential he was in modern science. I mean, if you just want to like go to like what is a good possible corollary anyways, for him to have created education, you can concede that. For him to create medical system, you may or may not be able to concede that. For him to be vitally involved in the guidance of how we do science, hey, that one's just an accident. That one doesn't count. The other two, maybe. That one, I can't do it. And it's just, I would say that there's programming built into your education, into your, I call it indoctrination. I apologize. I'm not trying to be offensive, but it's, look, do you know this is a good one. Do you know the definition of indoctrination?
The exact definition, no. I don't know the
The
meaning.
process of teaching a person or group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically.
Mm-hmm. Can you not say the same thing about intelligent design?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's the same thing. I think it's exactly the same. I think that belief in intelligent design and belief in the Big Bang carry the same overall weight, merit, have the same intellectual space, and they're the same idea. They're both belief systems. I totally. And children are indoctrinated to believe in intelligent design. Children are indoctrinated to believe in atheism. And it sucks to me. Like, what's funny, it says, listen to the indoctrination here. The process of teaching a person or group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. And then the example is, I would never subject children to religious indoctrination, but I'd totally subject the shit out of them to scientific indoctrination. Because science.
Which children are subjected to indoctrination since like infantry, right?
Oh, yeah,
They're
absolutely.
baptized since, they were pretty much out of the womb.
Right? Well, and that
So,
happens. Like, it's a hard truth about reality is we come into this thing as a blank slate. And you you could be raised like if I'm born here in America. If I was raised in China, guess what I would be? I'd be Chinese. It's really one of my like. If you guys want to have fun, go on YouTube and find the American persons raised in China who speak Chinese exact like Mandarin perfectly because they're Chinese. They like the one kid that I've seen a few of his videos. They called him the child with golden hair because he was blonde hair and everybody else obviously didn't have blonde hair. And he was Chinese. He didn't know any different. Probably till he looked in the mirror. He just figured he was like one of them. So we become where we are. We become what we see. We're wet concrete, and until it's hardened, we are going to have imprinted on us the intentions of the adults in our direct sphere of influence. So, this is why, and I just made one of my videos on the system about this. This is why I believe the education system says you get your child into school, pre-K, pre-K, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old. We're raised by wolves. We're put in the system before we know any different. We see what other people are doing. We accept it as our reality. And then the scary thing is that we become the parents and we go, this is what you do. Whoop, you drop your kids in. And we have a system now, multi-generational system of the parents having been the children raised in the system, putting their children in the system. And it's such a well-oiled machine that there's no changing it. It's not going away. Thank you, Sam. God bless you, sister. It's not going away. It's only going to continue. And the thing that sucks, and I'm just going to use all of recorded human history to validate my argument. This has happened throughout all of history. Who do you think built the literal pyramids? What do you think that system was like? It was a god king and a god queen, right? Look, check out this one. You're going to love this. There was what they used to do is they used to say, oh, I'm God, you can't question me, and that would work for some amount of time. And eventually the people would go, hey, you're not God, you're just a human. I saw you taking a leak. And then they go, okay, I'm not God, but I'm the God King. I was appointed king by God. And they go, okay, I can't. And then they go, hey, no. Somehow so then they go, okay, I'm not the God King, I'm not God, but my priests, they talk to God. And God said, I get to do this, and you got to do whatever I say. And people do it, and they go, shit. And you do this over and over and over. Eventually, people catch on to it. And then you know what they do? Ready for this one, Connor? They go, well, it was religion that was the problem. Religion was the problem because religion gave the king power. So we have to get away from religion. You're going to love this shit. We have to get away from religion because that's the problem, right? And then the priests become scientists, and the scientists say, religion is bad, but you have to trust the science because we still know. And guess what? The fucking king is still in charge. And if you don't think I'm right, look at what happened in the last 2 years. Look at what just happened in Canada with the trucker protests. They're in charge, and their new thing is that religion is bad. Religion is bad. You got to trust us because we are not religion, and we have the science. We have the science. And this will work for 20, 40, 60, 80 years, and we're going to go into some secular maniac doom, which is where we're headed, and then people will go, we got to get back to God. And somebody's going to rise up and go, I'm God, or whatever. We're just going to start over. This is what the fuck man has always done, and it sucks. And what the thing is, if we did the Men in Black thing and pulsed everybody with amnesia, and we all went blind, and we all just forgot, not blind, we all forgot our history, we're like, what are we doing here? 30 years we'd be in the same damn system because it's what happens. It's a human condition. So I'm not about a revolution. I'm not about trying to upset the system. I'm just trying to tell people that we've been lied to, and whatever you can do to get your freedom, protect yourself, live a healthy life, and not just fully trust a system that has shown itself to be untrustworthy, I fully encourage. And the propaganda runs deep. Bro, read Bernays. Look at the work of Aldous Huxley. Look at these people that have been propagandizing us for hundreds of years. They've got social engineering down to an absolute science. Men, we are sheepish. We will do what we're told. We're corrallable, just like sheep, man. The dogs bark. We go in the fucking pen. And it's just going to keep going on.
So let me ask you this. And this isn't meant to be like a slide to you or anything like that. I just wanted to ask this. So amongst like the entire American population, would you consider yourself, average, a little bit smarter than most people, extremely smart, or like less smart, or the options?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was an honor roll student in school. I had dyslexia and ADD, but in 1985, we didn't talk about that. It was a real struggle for me. I've always been a littler person. I went to school. I was born in September, so I could have waited a year, but I wanted to get it over with even back then. And my mom was like, do you want to go now or do you want to wait a year? And I'm like, the sooner I start, the sooner I'm done. So I was little, immature, ADD, and dyslexic, and neurotic. So it's a bad, and a class clown, and an asshole. So like, it was a bad combination. So school wasn't enjoyable for me. I did it with probably about 15% mental effort. Things that I was passionate about, I got into. Things that I wasn't, I didn't. But it was very toxic for my learning. So when I was done with school, high school, educated, no further, I didn't pursue intellect on any level intentionally for a long time. And then YouTube came around, and I realized that I could consume information audially, and it changed how I consumed, digested, disseminated information. And I quickly learned that I'm a gifted storer and deducer and recaller of information. I don't know what smart is because they quantify intelligence as like, whatever. Are you good at testing? But I've learned everything that we're talking about self-taught over the last 15 years, listening to lectures, and I can learn. I feel like I can learn anything, but unlimited potential. But because I didn't go through the academic system, it's hard for me to really quantify. So I guess I would answer like this: I'm at least average smart, potentially a little bit more, high deductive and recall capability with unlimited potential, and no practical application.
So the question that I wanted to answer after that, or the question that I wanted to ask after that was, so if you think that these, you're like, above average or whatever you are, why do you think that you're amongst the few that have, this stance?
Terrible multitasking. If I think I'm intelligent, why do I think I am one of the few that have this stance?
Well, you said that you were, average, maybe a little bit above average. So, like, we'll say, 60, 70th percentile, whatever it is. And there are billions of people on Earth. Why do you think you're amongst the few that believe this?
I think it has
These
nothing
beliefs, this
to do
collection
with.
of beliefs.
I think it has nothing to do with intelligence and everything to do with inability to conform, being a contrarian, being not a respecter of men, and not impressed at
Mm-hmm.
authority. So like you could tie exactly your question into why would I believe in conspiracy? Why would I believe in intelligent design? I'm open about this. I have a bias against the system. I was in rock and roll bands. I partied. I was a professional snowboarder at one point. I'm not a conformist. I'm an anti-conformist. So it's not about intelligence. It's about utter distrust of the system.
Okay. So you would attribute it to like people who think like you are probably not conformist, and have kind of maybe similar traits, and that's like the
There's
ability to see things for what they are.
kind of. I mean, I got a little bit sidetracked there. There's very few people that think like I do specifically. You can find out I made
Mm-hmm.
very few friends, a handful of very dear friends, but a lot of people that think like me are Republican, got into the Q thing. I didn't. A lot of people that think like me are flat Earth believers. I decry that. So, I mean, unfortunately I've made very few friends in my pursuit of intellectual honesty. But I think that, like you mentioned, intelligence. Okay, and if the system works like this, if you're in school and you sit there still and you look at the teacher and you listen to everything that the teacher says and you regurgitate it back to them, and the more accurately you regurgitate it back to them, the better grades you get, then intelligence is very closely linked to obedience. And if you disagree with the system and you get a bad grade, then you learn from that, like a dog who was disobedient or whatever, and you quickly conform. And so again, the more compliant you are, the more intelligent you are. So yeah,
Well, I would define intelligence as the ability to learn and how quickly to learn.
okay.
Like if you picked up a guitar and you were instantly could play Van Halen riffs, I would say that you're very intelligent at that guitar.
Well, I don't think that's the standard definition.
It is. That's what I mean. There's other metrics, but if you're gonna like look at the IQ test, that's kind of a lot of what they test, right? With all those puzzles and those other things, it's like how quickly and efficiently are you able to put two and two together, and how complicated can your brain work?
Yeah, I'm a little bit taken back by the guitar analogy. I've been in a lot of bands, and good guitarists aren't. It's not a one-to-one. But okay, so intelligence definition: the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. That's in defense of you. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
another one. Oh, this is the military and information. That's not that. Best definition for intelligence: the ability to learn, understand, or deal with new or trying situations. Back to your guitar analogy. Reason also the skilled use of reason. Okay, that's a disparate idea. The ability to apply knowledge to manipulate one's environment or to think abstractly as measured by objective criteria, such as tests. So there's three totally different definitions, in my opinion. One of them being the guitar analogy. If it's the guitar analogy, I'm very intelligent because I'm actually an autodidact, and like I said, I've been a professional snowboarder, professional golfer, professional musician. I'm a content creator. So that level of my intelligence is very high. The skilled use of reason, I think I do well with. The ability to apply knowledge to manipulate one's environment or to think abstractly as measured by objective criteria such as tests, I'm not good at. I'm not good at that intelligence. That's the conformity intelligence, which I think actually pervades the thought, the mode of thought in today's world system.
Um,
And I actually think I'll double down and say that I think that school is to indoctrinate and program to get people to think in a certain way, to reward those that do agree, and the people that do agree become the scientists and teachers of the next generation. I think it's a perfectly designed, well-oiled feedback loop of regurgitating the system, propaganda, and information.
so I also have a problem with that third thing. I think the word test, I don't think that should have been added in there. My idea of thinking abstractly and applying that would be like to have a knowledge base and apply it to something new, and kind of think abstract about the amount of knowledge you have to make a new discovery. Think abstractly about that set of knowledge and kind of turn it into something new. I also, yeah, I think that wording on that definition is a little screwy, but so back to the original point. So yeah, you would probably consider yourself in those definitions very, very intelligent, right?
I mean, I don't want to be like a
Oh
hornblower,
no, I
but
mean I'm not going to
with
judge you or anything.
yeah, with the first, I mean, yeah, that's I was this is whatever weird. I'll tell you more about me. I was 6 weeks premature. I was always the littlest guy. I've always been the fighter, and I've learned. I actually was telling my wife, I was making a rebuttal video because somebody said to me, "You are he said you're a conspiracy theorist. That's what else would a white man with no skills do? You are a joke, pretty much." Well,
Hmm.
my dad was Mexican. I'm half Mexican, so I'm like white. That's funny. Skills. I was going to go over my skills. I was upset. It offended me. Anyways, I was talking to my wife about it. I was written up in a fairly major publication in the city that I grew in Denver. It was kind of a big city for three different industries. One for the golf industry in a facility that I opened. One for my snowboard clothing company, which at 17 I was a snowboard clothing entrepreneur and had a snowboard clothing company. And then one for my band. An album was reviewed in the same publication. It's called Westward. It's kind of a big deal in Denver. And like I had accomplished those like in my mid 20s. So yes, the ability to learn or understand or deal with new or trying situations and use a skilled use of reason, I do those things very well. And I'm really
Okay.
hoping to like an interesting thing about what I'm doing with Voice of Reasons is I so utterly defied the system. I dropped out of high school in ninth grade. And then I was a professional snowboarder at the time, and I immediately took my GED and tested out of it at that age. And I just said, I'm not going to do this. I'm not what I'm going to get a degree. This is my best years of my life to snowboard. And I'm going to go to college. I have a snowboard clothing company. What do I need this for? And it was that escape from the system at that age, which I think has allowed me to question the system. And I would never go back and change it. I would go be a banker or a real estate agent or some shit. This is what I'm glad to do. And I think that I actually was able to open up my mode of perception to question the system, which I've been doing for, that was 1991, 1992, 30 years I've been doing that. Yeah, it's what I think is you have someone like yourself who's very bright. Simon, who's in here, is very bright. You have these people who show intelligence. And in my opinion, the system takes that and says, you will think this, you will believe this, and you will take the next generation and you will do the same thing. And this is the system that we're in now, and you're going to have a hard time convincing me otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I'm just going to give my final words because a lot of people have been waiting for a long time. And basically, what I don't think we're going to agree on this, but part of me kind of wishes that that you did go down the path of science, or you were in one of those fields, because I think you've got the type of mind that a scientist does have. I think one that does often. I think a scientist, or at least a good scientist, should definitely question the surroundings and what's going on. So yeah, that's the impression I get of you. And at the end of the day, I think we can both agree on at least this point that maybe we should save the Big Bang and evolution to specific studies in college, because it's just, at the very least, it's just creating waves, and kids don't need to learn that shit.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. I appreciate the way you said that, and I appreciate that. It's a really nice compliment. It means a lot that you would say that. So thank you for saying that. And then with the other thing, totally. If as you get older, if you elect to, and again, I think it'd be really cool to do an origins style class where you go, here are some options. Which one intuitively makes sense to you? Which one do you want to pursue? Which one are you passionate about? It's like natural sciences. Great. You're going to go to the natural sciences. Metaphysics. Okay, this. Okay, biblical, whatever, intelligent design, whatever. And like you could kind of choose from there. I think that if we did that rather than having children at 5 years old, 7 years old, when they know no better, go 400 million years ago, I did this and this and this, and I am this, and I am just a monkey. It makes me feel like the Bart Simpson thing at the end of The Simpsons where he'd write on the chalkboard, like, I am just a monkey. I am just a monkey. I am just a monkey.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what the children are doing. So yeah, if you could do it later in life when your brain is more formed and you're more confident in your worldview, your intentions, your sexuality, your feelings, your desire, okay, everything. When you know more about who you are, then go and pursue these different kind of things. And I think that agenda of what I call indoctrinating the children with this belief system, this naturalist belief system, is my absolute enemy. And if we did what you just said, like teach science, people keep saying I'm anti-science. I'm not anti-science. How do physics work? How does learn about geology? Like how I think it's controversial, but learn about genetics, learn about anthropology and archaeology, and learn about all the different kind of things. Like we dissect the frogs, learn anatomy, learn those things. Great, and then save the belief stuff for when you get older. I love that idea.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, Connor. God bless you, man. I appreciate you.
See ya.
It was a good discussion. I got fired up. I think you guys know that I'm fiery. Good guy, though. Man, what's funny, and I'm sure he's probably still listening, is, he says, I kind of wish that you would have used your mind in the sciences. And obviously I'm thinking, and I wish you would use your mind to leave the institution. And there is our bias. You know what I actually wish? I've never said this on the show. Thank you for the gifts, Scott. I appreciate you. Thank you for the support, brother. Thank you for the new subscribers. The Vil, 0. Thank you for the people that signed on. I appreciate it. It really helps. I think, unless TikTok takes all the money, then it doesn't help. And I'll tell everybody to end a subscription. If they give me like $1 and keep 5, I'll be like, seriously, you guys keep your money. But anyways, thank you for that. I wish that I could, like, up here where we're at in northern Maine, we play disc golf at a course, and there's a one-room schoolhouse that's not a one-room schoolhouse anymore. And I wish that I could just send my son to the one-room schoolhouse, and the kids could play and they could learn arithmetic and English and some version of accurate history. Good luck getting that. I wish we could do that. And then I wish Connor could use his mind and not be indoctrinated to, I say indoctrinated. He doesn't agree, obviously. Like, if science just this, and Science with Simon's in here, if they just said, we don't fucking know, this is where the evidence looks, we're going to keep looking into it, think outside of the box, let's try and figure this thing out, we don't know. It'd be so much more exciting than, okay, everybody, now go find evidence to support our worldview. Okay, go find evidence. We need you to go find evidence to support our worldview. Good. Pisses me off. Anyways. Ugly ducker. Luke, don't mess with me. What does that mean? I'll mess. I don't know what that means. You trust science, but not scientists. Amen. Human collective knowledge cannot advance if we must all personally validate everything. I disagree with that statement. Human collective knowledge cannot advance. Maybe if we all personally validated everything, we'd advance a hell of a lot faster. What, going and being indoctrinated and being told what to fucking think is going to advance us? Anyways. Yeah, Lacey, he seemed like a good person. He's a good person. And obviously I agree. But, we had some good back and forths there, and I'm certain that he would normally not take a guy like me seriously. So, maybe he'll be like, hey, there's something to it. Maybe not. I don't know. What religion am I? I'm not religion. I'm not a religious person. I believe in God. I believe in the authenticity of the Bible, but I don't go to church and I don't subscribe to religion proper. I am a believer. Big difference. Life is a mathematical equation. I totally agree. After glitch, I'm sorry. Issues from church indoctrination, scientific. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to bring on a guest. Is Hack still here? Hacking. He stuck around for this whole thing. Now it's going to get salty. You here? Are you not here? No. The Church of Luke. No. No blaspheming. No, it's not my church. I don't have a church. You may both do it awesome. People that believe in God and Jesus are free from religion. Yeah, amen. If I must personally experiment, validate cell biophysiology, I can never be a doctor. Okay, I guess I get that a little bit more. I don't, maybe you explained it as well in that first line, but that seems a little bit more clear to me. Yeah, it'd be if we had to start from zero, I get that. But if the foundation that is built is incorrect or biased, then the formula can never be fully actuated, I don't think. I'm enjoying this decaf coffee, and it's also giving me brain fog, so I don't know how much longer I'll be able to keep this going. You can't go live, but I promise a document I uploaded answers all of this and connects everything. You uploaded a document? In proper perspective? What did you do it to my Gmail? Shadow, do you want me to bring you on if I don't have my other guest? He bailed. I'll bring on Airborne, see if he's here. Wow, I'm conking out fast. Crashing. Guest, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can, yep. Sorry for the wait.
No worries, man. Yeah, listening to you, I don't even know. I stumbled into your channel just before I was getting ready to log into Call of Duty. I'm be 60 years old next week, and my kids have me addicted, and my wife hates me.
My son's getting me just got me into Minecraft in the last month, so I hear you.
Man, I got 7 grown kids all over the country, and it's a good way to stay connected. But my topic has just changed so many times listening to you guys. I'm a big time new subscriber because what you look like, you remind me of a younger version of myself, and I guess the most recent thought that came during your interesting discussion with your last guest was when you were talking about conformity. And so, just as a matter of background, I also am not a high school graduate. I dropped out of school. My mother was a prostitute and drugs and Hell's Angels in the house, and so I kind of went in the military to escape all that. And ultimately did a career with the Los Angeles Police Department. And after that, I did 12 years as a federal agent with an OIG in D.C. And you're looking at, or you're talking to somebody who was pretty cocky in my beliefs in terms of the structure of the government and what I believed in. I was a paratrooper. I was willing to die. Man, you point to the hill, man, tell me where to go, Sergeant, and I'm going, and I'd be happy and proud to give my life, for this country. And that's how I was, I fell in love with the military because it saved my life. It was the first time I ate good food and had new clothes, and I just thought, man, it's my daddy, I love it. And I'm still very proud of the military. But what my point is that it's interesting as a matter of self-study when you actually see somebody who, what I call, wakes up from that conformist stranglehold that is so prevalent in humanity. And for me, it all happened. I mean, I don't know how old you are. You look pretty young, but you probably are familiar with Waco.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so
David
when Waco,
Koresh and Co. Yeah,
yeah,
that was a hell of a thing. I'm 44, by the way.
Roger that. Now, when Waco went down, I can remember distinctly standing around a bunch of old cops that were Vietnam veterans and such. And I was working Hollywood Division at the time, and I just was blown away that anybody would even question the ATF. It got me frustrated and very upset, and I was like a little kid. I wanted to lay down and punch things and cry because, by God, there's good, there's bad, there's black, there's white. Those guys, the cops had a warrant, come out, and anything that happens is the... So, long story short, it was, I don't know, man, a year later, I get a call. I was working by myself, and I get a call as a death investigation, nothing crazy. And it was it was at the Children's Hospital. And to make a super long story very, very short, there was a newborn that had passed away, and as required, we have to go and kind of just, do a little bit of a report, and part of that involves taking a peek at the body. And in this case, I talk to the nurses and blah, 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 and I say, okay, I'm going to have to look at the body, and they get really strange, and they get these weird looks on their face, and clearly I had hit a nerve, that I had asked to do this. And this is all going to tie in here with this conformism.
If you say the name Jimmy Savelle, I quit.
No, I won't say that. But what ended up happening was, they after a lot of me having to assert my authority, hey, I'm not leaving here until I look at this body. I mean, I started to think, what are you guys hiding? I'm thinking, they lead me into this room and into literally, and I'm not exaggerating, a closet. And she opens up the door, and there's a little cart, almost like a little cart you'd find in a factory. And then she uncovers the object on the cart, and it's this little baby. And I thought that was kind of weird that they put it in the closet. But as I just take a quick peek, it takes a breath. And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck what did I just look at? And everybody in the room now, because the room's filling up with nurses, and they're very nervous. And I see this baby struggle for another breath. And this was the exact moment that I woke up. And this is why everything that you have believed in, and there is a direct tie in here. I went from the whole argument about the ATF thing all the way up to believing the way you describe your religious beliefs are mine exactly. When we talk about other life in the universe, we talk about quantum physics. We talk about, I've read everything that Stephen Hawking's, I've read books he hasn't even written. I'm so fucking into that. I went on this quest. I was a Mason too, by the way. I was a Freemason at the time. And you want to talk about structure and hierarchy and what the top knows that the bottom don't know. And, the way this ties into the baby story was I turned around and said, why are you not trying to save this baby? And finally, there's a lot of commotion. A doctor comes in, and because of me literally, I'm like crying, tears coming down of rage. They rush this kid into ICU, and now they're incubating him, and I get a call, I get told to go to the nurse's station, and there's a detective on the phone who wants to talk to me. And he's a homicide detective who later became a good friend of mine. I actually worked for him later, a couple years later. But his name is Mike as well. My name is Mike, and he says to me, "Hey, you need to get out of that hospital right now and come to the station." And at the time, I just knew he was a homicide detective. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" It was like a fucking nightmare. It was like I was in a twilight zone. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He says, "You are crossing big lines, Mike. You don't understand what you're into there." And in my mind, I'm thinking serve and protect. I'm thinking there's a baby dying in a closet and people aren't doing anything about it. And I'm trying to make this baby live. I'm trying to intervene. And he says, and I start to argue with him. And he says, "Hey, this is much deeper than you'll ever understand." He goes, "You need to get your ass out of that hospital right this second and get to the station now. Don't say another word to those people." So I just was defeated, man. I hung up the phone. I look at this group and there's nurses crying, literally standing there crying because I'm crying. And it's like some scene out of a fucking bad movie, man. I turned around, I said, "Hey, I don't know what the fuck you people are doing, but I'm not going to stand here and watch it. You got to deal with it." And I got back and I went to the station and I'm shocked. The whole time I'm driving back to the station thinking, what the fuck are they talking? Why are there not people here investigating these people that shoved a living baby into a closet to die? And he tells me, I go back to the homicide and I sit with him. And he says, "Listen," he goes, "things aren't what you think they are, Mike. You like to think things are black and white, obviously." He says, "But it's not black and white." He said, "That baby was, I guess, had an umbilical cord around its neck," because he had spoke to people when he called up there, because they called the watch commander, because I'm in there directing people medically. And so he gets involved, and he says, apparently there was some oxygen deprivation, and there was a good chance of mental retardation because of that. And here's the kicker right here. Here it comes. This was a very impoverished Hispanic family with no insurance. And that is what it boiled down to, was no insurance, no life saving. And apparently I had broken some major rule about the minute I gave one direction to a medical staffer that involved the LAPD, which may put us in a position of liability. I had stepped on all kinds of toes. I ended up going home for the day, and I was just thinking, what fucking world do I live in? But the reason I brought that up is that was the very first moment in my life that I realized that we are not, we are being indoctrinated into a system. And it took that to ultimately make me realize years later how screwed up the ATF was and how that whole fucking Waco thing was a goddamn nightmare. Fast forward to 9/11, if you would have told me ever, if you would have looked me in my face when I was 23 years old and told me that my government would have any hand in something like 9/11, I'd have knocked you the fuck out. And now I can't believe I was that naive, because I'm telling you something, because I can't remember the name of it, but I'm guarantee you're a very smart dude, and I bet you're familiar with the operation that the government signed, or they didn't sign off on it, but they had on the table to expedite or justify an attack on Cuba.
Northwoods.
Northwoods. And when you know about things like this,
Right.
how in the hell can you ever, and then you look at, now I'm sitting here and I try not to watch TV, and I'm looking at commercials and the social engineering that goes on, this absolute, it's so clear. And the good news is, if somebody like me, who was Johnny, American, if somebody like me I can't look anywhere now without seeing through the matrix, so to speak.
Ugh.
If I can do it, if I can be beaten into a wakefulness, and it's painful, by the way. Ignorance must be bliss, because I would love nothing more than to think that you're born, you get an education, you go work for Acme Widget Company, you buy a car, and then you retire for 2 years, go get your hemorrhoids checked, and drop dead on the shitter. If I could live like that, that would be so much less painful than what I got to deal with right now, and what you got to deal with, because knowing is a bitch, isn't it? But I wouldn't have it any other way either.
Brother, I'm so thankful that you stumbled into this live and we're having this
Me
discussion.
too. Me too, brother.
I ask God to bless you, and I thank you for sharing. I was like getting real nervous there. Like I don't want, just because this is like this isn't exactly freedom of speech central.
Brother,
But
I had my YouTube channel with 83,000 viewers shut down finally after 12 years. It's so sad. I lost so many videos. I'm on my fourth TikTok account. I'm at 80 something thousand, and I'm on my final warning. And I don't say anything that's outrageous. You know, it's just some of the simplest things. And what's scary is that it doesn't scare people. You know, even the people that don't like my point of view politically. Why is, you ask yourself, why does it not scare them to death? And how can, and I've had been asked by people, because I'm obviously very vocal, very, very vocal, and this is why I get kicked off Facebook and everything all the time. But, you know, you wonder sometimes, how is it that there's so many cannot, and they don't seem to have the ability to self-think. In other words, to question anything. You know, people were killed and burned at the stake because they thought they dared say the earth was round. You know, this is not a new movie. This is a rerun with different actors. This movie has gone on many times in this planet and in this civilization. It comes around and around. And I wanted to say something real quick before I go about reality, because you guys in the beginning I had thought of this. You were talking about reality, and I'm going to use a hypothetical because it's the only way I can speak. You know, when we talk about, this gets into a more of a kind of a physical thing, or the well, let me just say it this way. Because you guys had talked a lot about quantum theory and quantum physics. And one thing I always was wondering, I'd love to hear you talk about this, although I think I could guess the answer, is, you know, the point of reference when somebody is viewing an incident, to me, it really dictates everything. And I mean everything. And
everything.
the way I think about this, and I have to talk in, like you did with the Luigi example, that's how I think. You know, I'm not that, I don't, like I said, I'm not that educated. So I say, if a caveman, hypothetically, if a caveman's sitting there and he sees a jet airplane flying along in the sky, he is going to think he's looking at a very small object moving very slowly across the sky. And what I've realized is the caveman will be 100% correct. He is not wrong, because he doesn't have the knowledge. He doesn't have the ability to be right or to be wrong. In other words, now if you could move him closer, and the jet whizzes by, and he could maybe understand then that thing was a container full of people moving at 300 miles an hour or whatever. Just like, and this is the last one. I thought of this when I was actually a kid in school. I was sitting there one time dropping a pencil, kept standing it up and dropping it. Now this takes some imagination, brother. The pencil falls very quickly if you stand it on its eraser and let it go, a number 2 pencil. If you cut down a giant redwood, it tends to fall very slowly. Timber.
Right.
Now, I'm thinking if you were the size of the nucleus or a size smaller than an atom standing next to the pencil, it would fall like the redwood.
Right.
Yes.
Wow.
And
So
if you were so big that your head was up past Jupiter, the redwood would fall as fast as the pencil. So what I've always asked people is, and I think it's rhetorical in my mind, which one is reality? Well, I believe that both realities are absolutely, they're correct. The falling pencil its speed is determined on where the person is viewing it from. So the speed is not a constant. And that's why I don't think light speed is I don't think light speed is the end all be all. You know, everything is wrong until it's right. And how many people end up, you know, mocked or imprisoned or whatever because they didn't know, you know, people laughed at, you know, if God wanted us to fly, we'd have wings. Hey man, you know, and lastly, you talk about God. I've always thought this too, because I was a full-blown atheist for I used to pray on my jumps. You know, I'd have a death card on my helmet and prayed my chute didn't open, and people get all mad at me. I was a class clown too. Come on, God, if you're there, don't let my chute open. People are like, Mike, you're nuts. Well, I've had experiences that have told me otherwise intuitively. I've stood in the Jordan River, where Jesus was baptized. I've stood at the base of the pyramids. I've been all over the world, man. And I've had experiences that have changed me. So I'm like you. I believe that the Bible is almost like a historical record of things. I believe Jesus existed. But God, what is the definition of God? God would be creator. So it doesn't change me at all. If you were to let me know you were an alien and you came and said, Mike, here's the truth. There's a alien life form that wrote a program and you're in that program, then that is my God. And then whatever God he answers to is the ultimate God, the creator. You understand? I'm not limited to the God of the Bible or the God of any belief. Whoever whoever hit the switch is the God. You understand? That's how I
Yep.
look at it, and it doesn't threaten me. I'm not threatened by 100 billion civilizations. Some that are maybe living like the Stone Age. Some that are so intelligent that we're like ass maggots compared to them. You know?
This has blessed me in such an amazing way. I'm so glad that you jumped in and just dropped your wisdom on me, man. Your life
I'm sorry.
experience.
I'm a talker. I'm a talker.
I love
I
it.
talk
It's
a
good.
lot.
I love to sit back and listen to anybody who has the life experience and aggregated wisdom and knowledge that you have. So thank you, and I'm with you on 99% of what you were talking about. So the reality being determined by the user. There is a quantum physics experiment. It was first a thought experiment, then it was executed by a guy named Wigner. And Wigner, are you familiar with the idea of a quantum particle being in a state of superposition? Have you looked into that at all?
I believe so. As far as that goes, and I have a very bad memory due to like 43 surgeries and anesthesia and stuff. So I can't remember a lot of things in detail. I am familiar with the experiment where the particle was in two different places at the same time. Is that related or
Yeah,
no?
so basically, yeah. So what it is a particle exists in a state of superposition, which the easy way to think about it is this pen is either vertical or horizontal, and it's
Okay.
oscillating between the two or is neither, and it's actually the human consciousness interacting with it, observing it that determines its state. So it could be here
Okay.
or it could
Yes.
be there. And
Yes.
so, I mean, this destroys scientific materialism. When I have these discussions, I try and talk about evolution and the kind of things they want to talk about.
Yes.
But this quantum physics destroyed, I think, the natural sciences. But anyways,
Particles that are affected by merely observing them.
right, by a human observing them.
Yes.
Doesn't happen with a dog. Doesn't happen with a bug. It's just a
Roger
human.
that.
It's just like a video game. If you're playing a video game and the video game is waiting to see what happens, it's all going to be built around the user with whatever. It doesn't matter if it's Mario or Grand Theft Auto
Yes.
or Call of Duty. It doesn't exist until you interact with it and it renders just outside of your periphery. But
Yes.
anyways, with quantum physics, the theoretical physicists wanted to see how far which way is it going to be determined by the user. They'd done it in time, which was the delayed double slit experiment. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's complicated. I would get into that. But the Wigner one, he postulated that it could be the particle could be in a state of superposition. For me, I go and I observe this particle, this blue pen, and it goes into a vertical state. Okay, so now
Yes.
it's in a determined state. He said, is it possible that the same particle for you was still in an undetermined state? That'd be really weird, right?
Interesting.
He theorized it and then proved it. The same particle will collapse from a state of potentiality. The wave collapses and it decides its form for me, and the particle for you is not determined yet. And it can literally be the opposite for you, the same particle.
So the ramifications of that are phenomenal when you
It's just
talk about what the universe is.
right.
That actually lends itself heavily toward a designed almost like you said, like a video game. I
Right.
mean, if you and I are playing a video game and I say, hey man, meet me at the hill by the church in the video game, and I'm running toward it, and I see your little animated guy running toward it, and you see my animated guy running toward it. Well, the little hill wasn't there until it needed to be there.
Right.
It,
It was
it, it
rendered
only
outside of. Yep.
Yes, it was not, it didn't exist until you. What if you got there first? Now my gun's laying there because that's where I dropped it. You'll see my gun laying there, but it's not been. Nothing was there
Right.
until you needed it to be there. And when I get there, you'll be standing next to my gun that's laying there. It's unbelievable.
Right. So the answer to this would be it's actually the old anecdote, the old euphemism that we used to say: if a tree falls in the wood, no one's there to hear it. Does it make a sound? Which I used to hate that idea. But it turns out that the tree would only exist in a potentiality and won't be either
Yes.
or until we interact with it. And so what
Yes.
you just said about the we meet by the church on the hill, in my game, the church has existed. In your game, it's only a potentiality and doesn't exist yet. So it exists for me and not for you. And this is how bizarre quantum physics is. But it's my contention that the elite maniacs that we were talking about earlier that can have rogue elements inside of the government, can do something like Northwoods, can, interesting about Northwoods, I'll get into in a minute. You know what stopped Northwoods?
No.
Kennedy.
Figures. I'm not.
Kennedy,
I'm not
Kennedy read it and said, "Go fuck yourself. Are you serious? What? This is the America? No." And then they blew his head off.
look
And
what
that's
happened to
another-
him. Yeah.
Right. And that was a big reason. Like, if you look at a guy named Lemnitzer, I mean, if you want to, I've actually done shows on this on my YouTube. I did the 60s conspiracy, I did Northwoods, but this guy named Lemnitzer was the chief of staff, and Kennedy fired him. He said, "This is bullshit. This isn't America," and he fired him, and he was pissed.
Wow.
And he was probably involved in 11/22/63. But anyways, the people that run this system, and this is going to get weird, but I believe in the Bible, and I believe there's a God, I believe there's a devil. Well, if you read the story, this I think the historical book of Scripture, the devil is in opposition to God. The devil was the one trying to tempt Eve in the garden. Jesus said to the devil, if you remember the story, the devil's tempting him, and Satan says, "If you work for me, I will make you leader over this whole world system," right?
Yeah.
And Jesus said, "Get thee behind me, Satan, I don't want your rule." He said, if you bow your knee to me, the idea is that Satan runs the system. Well, if Satan runs the world system, I'm not talking about the earth, but this system that we're talking about, he was involved in the creation of the universe. God says, "Let us make man in our image." He knows how the universe works. Okay, so here's a theory that I have basically related to my theology and what I believe. The devil, the people that get in bed with him, metaphorically or literally, maybe, they are given access
Interesting.
to this reality, what the nature of reality, how it works, what you think matters, and so on and so forth. And they've used this tactic to stay in control because they tell their people, "This is how money works, this is how we do it, this is what you say and what you don't say, this is what you eat and don't eat." Meanwhile, we're fighting class issues and we're fighting this indoctrination. We believe we're just animals in an accidental universe. Shit happens to us. We have no say in it. Free will, blah, blah, blah. Consciousness is nothing. They know that's not true. And by telling us what to believe, we now can't collapse the pen in a way to ever fucking stop them.
Exact man. No, I love that, and that would explain that explains this obvious effort to keep the
Right.
division going, to keep
Right.
people debating and fighting, and why is it that as smart as people think that humans have gotten throughout the ages, that we are still hanging on to such archaic hatred of each other? You know, that's by design, man.
Right.
That is, like you said, these are the people at the apex that gain and benefit from us down here grappling and struggling and arguing and hating our neighbor because he's a different color or
Right.
whatever, the hatred is.
Right.
It's
Well, and earlier you said, people, it's amazing to me how many people don't realize this. They should be scared. I made a couple notes when you were going on that beautiful diatribe.
thank you.
It's been domesticated out of them, the ability to even see it and or question it. This is how vitally important it is for them to get the children and put them in this system at a young age and get them through the exact trajectory that you went through. Unfortunately, and I'm so sorry that you had such struggles in your childhood, and I praise God that you overcame all of those, because those can be very difficult. But this thing that you went through isn't different. It is different. It was more extreme.
Sure.
But a lot of people have this story. My dad wasn't there. My mom wasn't there. My dad was an alcoholic. I was either ruined or I was placed in the system. Well, the system saved me and got me out of it. I owe my allegiance to the system. I served the system, right, all the way through up into the military. And I've got a couple people in here that are former military who were woken up and went through the same thing. It's all tied into this, man. The false flag attacks to getting us into war, the military-industrial complex. I mean, I know you know this, or maybe you don't. You maybe do. Prescott Bush funded the NAZIS, in World War II, from the Union Bank of New York, and was busted by Hoover And it's in public record. Look it up. Prescott
yes,
Bush funded them.
yes.
This is nothing new. War is a rich man's game. They
Yeah.
create these events. They create these things to keep us constantly sick and poor and in debt, and to
Yes.
never get up and over this hump of control. And so it's unfortunate. And I had that conversation with that Connor kid. He seemed like a bright kid.
Big time.
Right. And he's just like, he's got his mask in his picture, and Jesus says you can't serve two masters.
Right.
You love one and you hate the other. And if you research the CHINESE government system,
Yes.
they actually force atheism and natural science.
Right.
That's a really interesting thing to research. But they say you will not believe in a God. You will not. You will not believe in a religious system, because if you don't believe in God and we have to serve something, guess who you serve?
Right. You serve the government. My wife is Vietnamese. She was she was from South Vietnam, and she was 12 when Saigon fell. So she went from one belief system immediately to the one that the group you just mentioned is under, and so she was able to bullshit her way through it and survived.
Yeah.
And play the game. But yeah, no, you serve the people that are making the rules is who you serve.
Right. And then what ends up happening, this is like the next level thing, and then we'll try and wrap it up. It's towards the end of the show. I don't want to keep you longer than I need to, but I friended you, and I'd love to exchange
thank you.
ideas and see if we can collab or discuss
Absolutely,
this
brother.
further.
Yeah, anytime.
But the next level to this, which is really scary, is for all of human history, what happened is your great grandfather taught your grandfather, taught your dad, taught you, you taught your son. You had this link, you had this chain of command of information that was passed down hereditarily and through knowledge, through oral tradition, through watching your ancestors. You understood who you came from, where you came from, what medicine worked, what foods worked, how to build a house, all these kind of things.
Yes.
Well, the system, and women's lib and the funding, I'm sure you've looked into. Gloria Steinem was funded by the CIA.
Yeah.
Huge surprise there. They broke the house. They broke the family up. They took the mom out. They took the dad out. And they took the children now, which, like, the scariest part of this programming is that they have so thoroughly domesticated us that the intuition of a parent to protect their child is fucking gone.
That is your scary is too soft a word. It's terrifying because it's real. It really is. And we're at a point. I'm not going to say that this is the end of the world, because people, generations have all thought
Right.
that theirs was the end of the world. I'm sure in World War I and II, and everybody thought it all. But I will tell you that I think that those in charge of the dark side are, they've given up on the baby boomers. They're waiting for us to hurry up and go away to
Right.
wherever it is we go, and they are focusing 100,000. They're not even trying to mask it anymore. It's right in your face. They don't give a crap if you see it. They are forcing all of it onto the next generation, and this is why I worry about the military too. I mean, you look at it. You can tend to get caught up thinking, well, the military, they'll save us because I was in the military. We're the good guys. But the people in uniform ain't the same people that were there when I was there. The people that, I won't get too political here, but a certain president got rid of all of the leadership in the military that thought a way that he didn't approve of, recently in recent history. And, it's not the same people, it's not the same people. And that's scary, because a lot of the things that happened in Europe in World War II, we thought, we always, how could that have happened? How could people have just, it doesn't seem, because we see them as black and white clips, but they were real people that wore colorful clothes and had plans for tomorrow and ended up on trains. And how did that happen? It happened the same way it's happening now.
And some of the same people. I mean, look up
Yes.
Soros.
Oh my
But
God.
anyways,
Well, yeah.
right.
Guy he lives forever, unfortunately.
So what's crazy about this time now compared to that time? Yeah, we, as kids, so the baby boomers, and then I'm Gen X. I think that's what I am.
I think, yeah.
They were the problem for the system.
Absolutely.
Because I'm the last link of people. I grew up with people like you, my
Yes.
stepdad, my uncle. I know what it is to be a man and to be kind of, old school. I don't do it great. Like, I know it. It's not like it's like who I am, but saw it.
You're very toxically masculine. I noticed that.
Right. Yeah, you've got to be careful. That's a problem. We got to get the dad and the mom out of the house. But
Yes.
anyways, with the system, what were we just talking about? I got talking about Gen Z.
talking about Soros and
Oh yeah, okay. So the difference. Thank you for doing that. I'm drinking decaf, and
no, you're
now it
good.
gives
You're
me
good.
brain fog. But so what happened? Like when we grew up, it was like, how could they have ever done it? Like you just said, how could they have turned on it? This climate today
Yeah.
is not only doing it, the population is taken over citizen police and is
Yeah.
policing everyone and corral, like where before it was kind of like, well, I kind of know this is bad, I probably shouldn't be doing it. Today
Yeah.
they're like, do it, get him out of here. It's crazy
Yeah.
how much further they've gotten. And if you research Aldous Huxley, do you know the name Aldous Huxley? He wrote Brave New World.
I know the name. I haven't read any of his works.
I found an interview with him and I think it's Mike Wallace, but it was in 1958. It's on my YouTube. It's a show called The Science of Propaganda. But in it, Huxley gives the most like clear breakdown of the social engineering and how they do it and how they control the idea of a democracy and how they remove critical thought and get you to vote whatever you want and how materialism works. I mean, he breaks the whole thing down. But
Is that on your channel? Do you have that on your channel?
it is, yeah. So
I'll
Hux,
check it out.
it's like if you go into my bio and then Linktree, it's
Yeah.
actually like the second tab there. It's called The Science of Propaganda. I
I'll
go
watch
deep
it.
into it. Thank you. Yeah, I think you'll glean some serious information out of it. But one of the things he says, which is so horrifying, he said that we we have this idea of how to run a social engineering campaign, and we execute it with the current technology that we have, and the all we're looking to do is to see that it's effective. And once we know that the people are going to respond how we anticipated they would and how we wanted them to, we know that as the technology gets better, the effect will be better. He said this in
And
1958.
and now you fast forward to this whole everybody wearing masks era. Yeah,
Right?
terrifying. But that guy obviously is or was well informed.
Right. Well,
Yeah, that's
so
crazy.
he's well informed, and I cover this in the thing, but just shameless plug real fast. So he's well informed. His brother was the leading evolutionist of the time, Julian Huxley. The information he got for Brave New World wasn't just speculation. He had the inside, ball. He knew what was
Yes.
going on. His grandfather, and I've discovered a few proprietary things with doing a full year, because I do this full time now, a full year of research. His grandfather was a guy named Thomas Henry Huxley. And Thomas Henry Huxley was Darwin's bulldog. That's what they
Oh
called him.
wow.
Because Darwin, very much like Moses and Aaron, Darwin wasn't much of a speaker.
Hmm.
He had this idea, but he didn't have a way to get the whole world to fucking believe in his theory that we came
Yeah.
from, monkeys, from chimps. So Huxley took it on as his life mission to get this from Darwin's book into the psyche of humanity, and he formed a group called the X Club, and these were different botanists and biologists and different kind of people, and he said, we are going to control the entire intellectual headspace of science, and he created Nature magazine, which is like science's most highly touted, publical, peer-reviewed journal. So it was Aldous Huxley who was talking about the social control and how they're going to control people and get them to buy what they want and vote for who they want to and use the media as manipulation, all these kind of things. His grandpa was the one who made the theory of evolution
Good God.
happen. To 85% of Americans believe in it, and it's all connected, dude. It's all the same group. It's all the same family. They go back, generations, like you said.
But
This
it's
could
just
be
mere coincidence.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh man.
yeah. Just there's no connection, nothing
Yeah.
to see
No.
here.
Just yeah.
Don't
Yeah. Just move along. Move along, folks.
don't question the system, because if you do, you're stupid.
Yes.
Anyways,
Yeah. Well, listen, brother. Hey, thank you for having me on, and I'm so happy that I stumbled in, like you said, man, and I appreciate you giving me the time to ramble on.
it wasn't rambling. You blessed me. I'm really thankful to have met you. And not only do I expect us to talk more, I've got some people in my Discord that you guys, former military, very similar thoughts. So, God willing, this was preordained for us to have this discussion. I appreciate it.
All right. Stay safe, man.
Yeah, you too. God bless you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Almost 1 in the morning. I'm tired as I could be, and that guy walks in this room. I just can't even. That was amazing. It's just, so it's like, you guys see me talk to these people and like, come on, we're being lied to. The system is the enemy. 4.6 million people, 4.7 million people now have seen that video about the system. I'm starting to get recognized. People are seeing me from that video, and And I'm so thankful that got out there. The system does not have our best interest, okay? That guy went through it. He experienced it firsthand. We could get into Jimmy Savile being part of the royal family and knighted by the BBC and part of their. He was a Green Beret in the British military. And if you want to have like nightmares, look at what Jimmy Savile was doing. That's why I said with that baby, like, if you tell me Jimmy Savile was there, I'm gonna quit. This is just it's a group of people who hate you and control you and lie to you and tell you that if you question them, you're an asshole, you're an idiot, you're stupid. You know what this is? This is a toxic relationship, okay? We are in a psycho-abusive, toxic relationship with the system. I hate being bullied. Anyways, guys, that was amazing. All glory be to God. I'll take this down here real quick. I'll do some housekeeping. Look, we're in the VOR studios. A couple things. If you haven't already, please text VOR to 94253. VOR to 94253. I was doing that live earlier and it just ended. I thought it was done because I'm at any point, and then it was like, how was your experience? It was like, poor. What happened? I don't know what that is. Obviously, they're not interested in what we're saying. So text VOR to this. In the link tree, click bio, click link tree. We have a Discord group for people like us to have therapy and not be, at least for the time that we're on there, not be gaslighted by everybody in the world. We also do a Bible study and share links and stuff. So if you want to join the Discord, you can join the YouTube if you want to. I'm really kind of boycotting YouTube right now, but I do have a lot of really good content on there, including the Science of Propaganda show that I just talked about. So the last one I did was about a month ago. That's in there as well. Another thing is we are working on VOR Raw. I'm going to keep kind of beating this drum to tell you guys there. We're really hoping we can get 100 people in it. It's going to be on a safe platform. We can say whatever we want to, and it's going to get heavy. I've got a list of things to talk about that I've been wanting to talk about, and what I realize is they I'm a conspiracy theorist. I've been doing this 25 years researching conspiracy, 30 years as a Christian. Because of trauma related to losing my accounts and being, censored, I'm finding myself not even looking into the information and never even thinking about talking about it. And this is it's going to be the Fight Club of information. Okay? I promise you. It's going to be Fight Club. First rule of Fight Club. First rule of VOR Raw. Don't talk about VOR Raw. I'm kidding. We're going to talk about it. And somebody said, God bless you, Jest. Somebody said, is any platform safe right now? No. But this is our own website. And if Alex Jones is up, he might be controlled opposition, but, we're going to have to get shut down by Google. Brain fog, sorry. So what we're going to do, it's going to be, I've got 4 guests lined up already. JT follows JC. He's a conspiracy theorist. Wolfbox, Big John Steele, and Right Side Lesbian. That's going to be a salty one. So we're going to do me just ranting. We're going to do guests. What we're thinking it's going to be, and I understand people are supporting us here on the TikTok subscriptions app. Again, we're going to see how much they give us there because it's $6. They may keep 5, and if so, we're just going to tell everybody, like, please don't do that. But I think we're going to do, it's going to be $3 for a show or $7 for a month, so for 4 shows. So I know that's going to suck. Everybody's concerned. I know it's going to be hard to get people off of TikTok and through a paywall, but we're going to make it as seamless and easy as possible. That'll keep the trolls out. And, for those of you guys that don't know, my wife and I do this full time. I spend a lot of time on the content, and we're obviously trying to keep this going. So the goal is micro payments from a lot of people so we can not think about money and just do this as long as the Lord is willing. So that's the plan. But part of it is, obviously revenue generation will be good. Part of it is to see if it's viable to start, funneling people into something where it's safe. Because my goal is an app that will be, I loosely call it the TikTok Christian Content Creator Super Friends League, where We get 6 or 8 of us and we do a proprietary show every night, say whatever we want to, and, just kind of have our own thing. So that's where we're heading, hopefully, and VOR Raw will help us figure that out if there's actually a demand. Because, with this app, thank you, I appreciate it, guys. With this app, everybody's just used to, it's just free and it's dopamine, right? It's like, ooh, we're like addicted to it, and it's free. And they're promoting, they're promoting a lack of freedom of speech, which sucks. And that everything should be free. Well, these content creators, obviously we're putting the work in. So I'm trying to figure out a way, because I don't want to put anybody out. People have supported us amazingly. But, if we can get, between the 6 of us, we have over 1 million people that are following us. If we can get 20,000 people in at $5 a month, everybody makes full-time content. We got back on. I almost didn't come back on, so thankfully we did. Thank you, everybody. Christian Rogan, that's funny. Joe Christian? Anyways. Niche. Yeah, very niche. Niche, Evan. Best show yet. Thank you for saying that. God is good. Yeah, we never know where they're going to go, right? You build it, they will come. I got to screenshot that. That's great. That's the idea, right? Because imagine if, I don't know. Imagine a place where like-minded people could talk to each other about the things that they think. It's crazy. It's called 2019. I don't know. It's called the world I grew up in before we went through the portal into the fucking bizarro world. That's all you've ever wanted is a Christian Joe Rogan. Well, come on, Lacey. Come on, that. Come on. I mean, that's fair to say, right, Christian Joe Rogan? Thank you for saying that, Wes. I appreciate it, guys. I screenshot these a lot because when we're having a tough night, or tough whatever, I look at them, and it really encourages me. So, called 1984. Did they say to stop souling their name by using it referring to this time? The portal brought us here. It did, yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. Cool, guys. Yeah, God is good. Thank you, guys. The one thing I would ask on the way out, when we have these guests, if you're thinking about it, if you're Christians and you're going to bed or whatever, I ask you to pray for the people that we have on the show. We had that voice of reason guy at one point who was mad at God because of that thing that happened with his brother or whatever, the unborn child. The guy at Connor tonight, we could just pray for them, that God reaches out to them. There's a scary idea, you guys. Jesus said, my sheep hear my voice, We don't know. But if it's scales over their eyes or a hardness of heart, pray that God opens their eyes. Pray that God gives them a heart of flesh. The Christians that come on, that guy that was just on here, he shared a lot of heavy information. Pray for his protection. I pray that'd be great if with the VOR family we have these discussions and collectively everybody prays, as they're going to bed for these people. That would be a huge effect. So, okay. Let's see if I can answer my last question. Can I explain how something comes from nothing? Everything can come from nothing from our perspective. Just like if Mario's reality came on from his reality didn't exist before the user hit the power button. So in that sense, from our perspective, it came from nothing. But from outside of there, you could see the origination point, and that is the source, I believe, which I believe would be the kingdom of God. And the Lord spoke this reality. Joe Rogan does not believe in God. Exactly, but I do. And then the next question is, do I believe in God or evolution? I believe in God. And I don't believe he used evolution. Some people believe that he did use evolution. It makes more sense if God directed evolution than it just happened on its own. That's for sure. So, all right, I think that's all. Please look at his last comment. Which one did I miss? I don't know. Thank you, Brother Mike. God bless you. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate it. Thanks, Jen. Nothing can actually be, I agree. Okay. All right, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you. End transmission.